Let's be really clear. Everything is called AI when it's not AI.
This is Gary Elden, Kalpesh, Baxi and Tom Wood. They're all from a recruitment agency background and they're now pioneering in AI initiatives.
The AI did exactly what those 20 people did, and those 20 people go in, we're out of a job.
We had a challenging debate about the impact of AI on the recruitment industry, how they should adapt, evolve, with automation becoming ever present across the industry.
It can look at skills and go, if they've got that skill, they've probably got that skill and that skill and that skill that aren't mentioned. The junior TA can't do that.
We're not a liked industry, we're a necessary evil.
I can't help but think that the emotional attachment to the traditional ways of working was anchoring everybody in a romance that technology will ignore.
If a client can then get access to that candidate pool, and they've got the technology and the AI to bring it all in, then recruitment's going to be impacted.
AI can't survive unless you've got data.
How far away are we from that bot being indistinguishable from you?
I think we're...
So this is the bit that I've now...
There is change coming.
Gentlemen, good to see you.
Good to see you.
We gather here to address what I think is on the mind of many people in the recruitment industry, which is a simple question. Today, can we try to find some form of consensus on how AI is going to impact the recruitment industry? And you guys, along with me, are invested heavily in the AI and tech space, but you also come from an agency background.
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be great to actually get some of the strongest minds and the most experienced minds in the sector. Not pretty faces, sadly.
Yeah.
One out of two.
Yes. Couldn't get them, so got us, yeah.
One out of two.
Speak for yourself.
Together to debate it. And I guess it might be worth kicking off actually just with a super high level intro of how you're invested in the AI space, just to create some context for anyone that is involved. Do you want to kick us off, Kalpesh?
Yeah, sure. So my background is 28 years in this recruitment bubble.
Yep.
Started off at S3. For the last 5 years, I've been an angel investor. I do some board advisory work with high growth companies. Yep. I run a startup zone at Rec Agency Expo. My passion around AI is I also am about to launch a product that's an AI helper to try and take the micro tasks away from recruiters so they can focus on doing the big heavy things they can make the biggest impact on.
Good, thank you. Tom?
24 years, I think, agency. Henderson Scott for quite a long period of my time. My own business, Evans Denham, through COVID. Pivoted from there into AI. Pivoted because I could kind of see where the market was going.
Yep.
Plus lots of frustrations, I think. I always felt recruitment from an agency perspective needed innovation. I always felt it was quite samey, needed something. So I saw that coming, thought, yeah, jump on this. Started off with a job searcher platform, The Hub. That's still running, 80,000 members, 37, 38 countries. Then I realised there's actually an opportunity to do, where I'm helping the job searchers on this side, I can help the job searchers and the hiring companies on this side. So we built Talent Matched, which is a job application qualification platform. So that's now the main focus with The Hub, sitting there kind of still running, a little bit dormant, but we'll connect the dots somewhere. So very much focused on that, removing the front end, top of funnel, job application, qualification for recruiters and talent acquisition.
Amazing. Gary?
35 years in recruitment, so top trump you all. 29 years at S3, and the last 6 years been investing in a number of different tech businesses. Even back in the day at S3, when I set up the innovation fund, it was really about how AI or technology was going to impact. And I saw some early signs of how AI was supposedly going to disrupt the industry. And in the specialist market, it never did in the way that people thought, in the searching and matching using AI. Then I've invested in other small little things which have not come to fruition as well. So I've seen a lot of the hype behind it and realised that you've got to pick the right lane. I'm currently in the stage of developing a training platform called Vidmology, and the training is carried out by AI avatars, and then you can then call or message a bot that will answer any questions relating to training in recruitment. So AI is something that I've been focusing on for the last couple of years now, and I just want to see how we can impact change really and make it easier for giving people the flexibility. You know, a lot of people work from home, remote working, and being able to just log in and see a training or call a bot that can give you answers, I think is the way the world's going.
Cool.
I like that. Yeah, and that's one of the things actually I think is missing in the market, certainly for remote workers, is not having that water cooler conversation. That, you know, firsthand.
My issue, I've seen a lot of training is carried out by old farts like us doing training to everyone. I'm thinking, I look at micro learning, right? It's no more than 10-minute videos. You can say how to close a candidate. You log in, watch the video. Great. Okay. Ring up the bot, ask questions, quizzes, role plays. So the idea is to bring training to life, but don't make it some long, laborious process. Listen to the same old farts saying the same old shit, right? I think we just need to mix out.
Because you haven't got the on-the-job training as such when you're remote. You haven't got what I call the subconscious learning, the conversations from the old farts. You haven't got that happening in the background.
That's missing, right?
You're there, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, I like that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So at what point, guys, you know, did everyone feel like AI was going to have a significant impact in the sector?
Joe, I think for me, it was actually probably the start of COVID in many ways. And maybe that was partly down to having headspace to actually start looking at it and going to talk to people from around the world and just understanding how different communities of people are approaching what we call it AI today, right? And I think, you know, one of the things that my personal bugbear is everything is called AI when it's not AI. So I think one of the big challenges we've got as a society is, let's be really clear, what is AI and what is automation? You know, so that's the first thing. But so it was probably about five and a bit years ago. But like, along with Gary, I mean, like I grew up in a business that was all about innovation, right? You know, it was like all the way back to when I started 26 years ago. It was always about, right, we'll build our own system, our own IP, etc. But I think the reality for me, and particularly in the last couple of years, and I think we've all got kids, they're different ages. I've got a 22-year-old who's just entered the world of work. And probably in the last 18 months, I was like, right, the world has really changed. You can't work the same way you used to work. You can't rock up saying you've got the same toolkit as I had 30 years ago when someone said, there you go, there's your entry-level job. So for me, it was probably about 2020, I was like, this is coming. But no one had an idea what this was going to be.
And I'm with you on that, by the way. The thing that I find funny about AI is if you think about the concept of Google, in the Google that we've all, you know, learned to understand and use, and it's machine learning, isn't it, really? And they were the sort of the leaders in machine learning. AI is essentially machine learning. So, but we weren't thinking like we're thinking now with Google and machine learning. We weren't thinking we can use that in recruitment. It was only really when ChatGPT came along.
Exactly. That
we all went, fucking hell.
Yeah, no. that was the pivot for me. I was like, ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, we all probably went, what is this fucking ChatGPT? And someone was using it and we went, but machine learning has been around for a fucking long time. Yeah. So why weren't we all sitting there?
AI's been around for a long time. There are degrees at universities teaching whatever words they used to say, but it was basically AI 35 years ago.
And the Hollywood films have been talking about AI taking over the world for God knows how long, but we haven't connected the dots for some reason. We haven't gone, oh yeah, we can probably, you know, we haven't gone, well, Google is remembering, and even Amazon now, when, you know, pre-AI, Amazon was remembering what you were searching and bringing up adverts. So it was doing all that stuff, but we didn't go, yeah, we can use that in recruitment. It's only really when ChatGPT came along, we suddenly went, fucking hell.
Agreed.
So that was probably 22, maybe 22. When that became when did ChatGPT go? Like I can't remember when. 21 maybe. But
was there a moment in time on that kind of journey with ChatGPT where you kind of looked up, like you say, first of all, I was kind of blown away by its capability.
Yeah, mine was the evolution of that when you can actually then talk to the bot. I remember as a friend of mine who runs EQ Buddy in America, a guy called Marcus Sawyer. And I remember he had this bot where I said, Gary, he goes, ring this bot and ask anything you want. And I'm having this conversation, the to and throwing and answering questions, and the answers were brilliant. I was thinking, this is amazing. It's a practical way of actually using it. I was thinking, other things before, like searching and all that. I was thinking, okay, great, it's going to be better how you can search. But when I can have a conversation with a bot that can answer all my questions, it can interact me like if it's a human being. I was like, wow, that's game changing for me. So that to me was a bit
how long ago was that?
That was 18 months ago.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and it's got better and better and better. And because technology has obviously improved, something that would have cost for 1 minute might have cost you £10, £20 a minute is now, it's maybe £1 a minute, and then it's going to be, so just like mobile phones, it's going to change, right? If you see how you can turn a photo into a image now, and you see that, Jesus, it's gone crazy. So to me, seeing that practical way of doing it opened my eyes and go, okay, you can use it in real world situation. While before, ChatGPT just blew my mind away, right? Gave me answers, but the fact you could talk to something and it can respond instantly, I felt that to me was the catalyst to say that this is going to have an impact. And that's why you now see all these AI agents for this, AI agents for that, AI agents for that, right? Everyone's on the bandwagon, right?
Yes. Does anyone think they've experienced anything in their lifetimes which is going to have such a profound impact as this?
I mean,
No.
Possibly the internet. Possibly the internet. I think, thinking back to when we were probably recruiting without the internet and how different that was. So to have the internet where you can suddenly have the ability to connect to the whole world, possibly, I would say that was probably one of the biggest innovations or evolutions, if you like, of the world.
When do you feel like you started getting value from that, the internet, proper value?
To me is when it was the job boards and emailing was the biggest significant change for us.
Yeah.
Right. Paper based. We had the postman used to turn up with massive sacks, franking machines, right? And I was the number one at doing it. Send outs. Get your send outs, right? Piles and piles. And that was brilliant, right? Because it was so difficult to get hold of candidates. And if you had the candidates and you're posting them out, you're quite unique. When emails came and job boards, all of a sudden you'll get the job boards, because you have to advertising in Computer Weekly, computing, you're spending 10 grand a page, right? So you're a small business, you can't afford that. Then job boards come along, £2 an ad, £5 an ad, £10 an ad. All of a sudden you're able to get access to candidates, and then all of a sudden now you can email. So to me, that the significant change in recruitment was the barriers to entry became lower, became more people can set up on their own, and then you've got access to a way of communicating.
But if you think about the first job board that came out, right, and we're talking probably 96, 97 to 2000, take that window, right? And I never forget, I mean, I started recruitment in 97. So, and day one was always, we talk about evolutionary technology. I remember my boss telling me, my director, John Bullen, was like, right, you make sure you get fax numbers on every call, because faxing is going to be the way forward. Right, it's 97. But I also remember coming about 98 and I'd landed a client. I remember going to my boss says, Computer Futures, and I was like, right, this thing called job boards, I've exhausted everything to get candidates. I've got this project to fill. And that's it. I said, I've heard this thing called JobServe.
JobServe, yeah.
Right? And they were like, no, we only do paper. Right? That was the thing. It's like, we only do paper. You're not doing. So I had to pay 50 quid, because that's how much JobServe was, 50 quid an advert. I said, I'll pay for it myself to get the candidates in to make sure I make my placements. So, and then you think about JobServe where it is today, it's like, what, £5 an advert, whatever. Yeah. So to some extent, with all of these things, it's about price, accessibility, and convenience. The internet really became the main thing, but it was a value, early 2000s. So if you think about the last 30 years, the 90s was the internet, the early noughties was a mobile phone app, and we are now in the stage where it's LLMs.
And I think cloud and SaaS, just thinking about it, and the dynamics of the role, certainly in recruitment. I remember working at Portland Resourcing and not being able to access your database at home, not being able to access your CRM because there was fear that you were going to nick the database. So I think that licensing model, SaaS,
that's only COVID though, right?
Yeah.
COVID changed that.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. We wouldn't let anyone have access.
Not even access at home?
No.
I'm trying to think if we did
restricted
it in
access
Scott. Maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
I think the transition on that did start in the kind of 2018, 2019, because I think Bullhorn and the main players started to come out with some mobile apps or some kind of remote access, some kind of limited access features. But you're right, COVID was definitely, and I remember going through, COVID was really fascinating, wasn't it? Because I remember just going, I would never have thought that we would have been running our businesses remotely from home.
Do you think there's still that fear of the people nicking your database now that everyone's remote, or is there so many security measures in it? Or
No, of course, there's a fear. Yeah, always will be.
but
right?
that's just an acceptance now that recruitment owners have now got. That fuck it, that's just how we work. And
The difference now is you have to remember, right, Tom, is also the technology's evolved so much.
Yeah.
I can see where your eyeball is on the page. I can see what you're looking.
Yeah.
I can see what you're clicking. Right, I can see what you're logging into, what you're not logging into. You know, and there's some real clever stuff that's coming from. At the moment in time, if it doesn't already, you must be able to detect if I've taken a picture of a screen as well to download a document. But it's an accepted. If you think about the risk profiling element of what it was don't leak your data. When I think we've all moved on to different companies over the years. We've realised we never had all the data anyway because it was leaking out every day anyway.
Yeah, gotcha.
But now it's about as secure as it's going to be. But it's an accepted risk.
The problem you've got now, I suppose, if you want to start a business, you got your, let's say you've got your CRM, you got LinkedIn, you're ready to go, right? Before you'd have to, how are you going to get your candidates?
You don't even need LinkedIn. That's the beauty of today.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I think the internet. So I think LinkedIn was a fucking game changer, wasn't it, in recruitment? Because it was just direct contact to, people that were looking for work. But I think those are the point. Yeah, I'd say internet, SaaS, Google, all those kind of things work.
I'm not technical in any way whatsoever. And some of the investments I made, I'm thinking, obviously I'm not technical, right? It's just, we don't know what we don't know, right? So I'm thinking of my kids and thinking about doing their GCSEs and then their A levels and things like that. I'm thinking, I thought before AI came in, I think I could give them career advice. I think it's the direction to go into. But when you think of laws, what's happened to the legal firms, doctors using AI to do diagnosis now, you think of everywhere now where it can be used. You're thinking, what career? Well, I'm trying to work out what the right career is for them, because everything seems to be, it can be disrupted in some sort of way. And it just makes you, I can't give advice at the moment because I don't know what the jobs are going to be in the future, what impact that's going to have.
Does anyone have a view on that?
I've seen a spike back in what I would call traditional jobs. So my daughter's just gone through GCSEs, and it was interesting to see the amount of kids that opted not to go to sixth form, and they've gone to college to learn a trade.
Wow.
It's interesting.
And that for me was the first, wow, okay. And these are smart kids, by the way. These are kids that could have got good A-levels at school doing, whatever it may be, maths, science, psychology, but they've opted to go to a college and learn a trade.
Really?
And because, some of the stuff that's now coming out is that those industries are AI proof. A builder, a plumber, a carpenter is AI proof. And there's always going to be a need for those skills, potentially, until robots come and start doing it. So there is a bit of a shift there now that people are kind of seeing that as maybe a safety net, maybe an easy option.
Have you not seen the robot that cuts hair?
Yeah. It will happen. It will happen.
It's unbelievable.
It will.
Edward Scissorhands second.
It's just,
but maybe what's happening now is kids or parents are saying to the kids, don't go and fucking do, engineering. Don't go and do, just go and play it safe. Go and become a builder. Go and become a plumber. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
I can't help but think if intelligence, if knowledge is available at the drop of a hat, then does that actually put a stronger emphasis on subjects, like the humanities, philosophy, or even economics, understanding how things work, which is driving creative, critical thinking.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? For me, it's about developing the way people think rather than thinking about the fact that they should have some specialist knowledge.
But the problem you've got at the moment is if you've got access to things like ChatGPT or whatever, your natural is let's have a check first. While before you'd have to try and work it out, right? Google wasn't going to give you the answers in the same way. So this has just changed the mindset of the kids now. They're like, well, there's a shortcut. It's like a calculator. My kids go, why do you need to know about mental arithmetic now when you can use a calculator? I said, it's important so you can make decisions. Goes, but just press a calculator. Yep. And they're the same as about chat, using, I know, why do I need to study to know the answer when I can just go, what's the answer?
Because they don't know if the answer's right or not.
Well, it's a different point, right?
That's an interesting point. I sat down with Professor Denise Hawkes she's the economics professor at UCL. And we're talking about the fact that she recognises that education's got to change. And actually, she's introduced a program, which I think is brilliant, which is all about experiential. So actually, they're now running workshops where you have to demonstrate your capability. Right. So actually, I think that education will evolve to mitigate this.
Will it evolve quick enough, though? Because look at the education system now. I don't think it's fit for purpose.
No.
Right? It's just what you can remember at an exam, and that's how you get.
Well,
jobs.
it's a set, structured way of learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you don't conform to that set, structured way of learning, you're thick.
Exactly.
And that's there's an issue there. So maybe that demonstrating it rather than doing it, because I failed at school because I didn't conform to the way of being taught. I ADHD, struggled to read a textbook, lost interest, wanted to play football. So in my mind, I was thick because that's what that box kind of put me in. Leaving school, I realised I wasn't thick. I just didn't learn that way. I couldn't go at home and revise. I couldn't sit in my bedroom and just read a textbook. It just wouldn't go in.
Intelligence is available on demand, but actually so are the tools in order to uniquely assess.
Well, look. If I look at ChatGPT, to me, it's a generalist. Yeah, it's like your sat nav, right? You put a sat nav, it'll get you there. But sometimes, if you know the streets, you can work it out yourself, right? They're short. I see ChatGPT's too general. That's why I think you still need that need for expertise, specialism that you hold. And then, therefore, your data becomes more important. Your USP is going to be what you put into your bot and what data you cover and what training you put into there. Yep. So you want to make a differentiator between someone. Therefore, you're still going to need that uniqueness, I think. But that's why you're seeing all these specialisms coming out of it. Yes. People trying to find their own sort of areas of expertise. And it's just finding, it's like in recruitment, right? If you're going to be an IT specialist and you go in to do SAS as an SAP as a model, or in the AI world, you just got to find where's your lane. And I think everyone is trying to figure that out at the moment.
I think the thing I've started to look at with ChatGPT, and I think this probably is kind of what you were saying, was there's different users of ChatGPT now. So I actually use...
And they own all your data, remember, as well.
Yeah, and also ChatGPT actually... I realised this the other day, I didn't realize you could do this. You can actually change the settings of how you want it to respond, and that was quite interesting. Because typically it's a yes man, isn't it?
Yeah,
it wants you to keep going, so it's pleasing you, it's validating you. I only realised that recently you can change it to be more argumentative. The outcome's completely different. All of a sudden it's not saying I'm the fucking best recruiter in the world and I haven't got the best AI platform. As
I think you're all right, mate.
As previously it was. Previously it was, and I was like, fuck. But the thing I've realised with ChatGPT is I use it to learn, and that's something that I think is where it could be really good. Because I go down rabbit holes now with ChatGPT, and I start to delete some of my chat with it because I'm like, fuck, where was I going with that? But because I learn, and I'm reading it, and I'm learning, and I'm educating myself, whereas other people just want the outcome. They just want the answer, and they won't read, and they'll just take that answer and paste it and go, fucking, there's my homework done. And there's a difference there, I think, in the usage of it.
But Kalpesh made a point earlier. If it is the right answer, there's so many times where I look at that and go, that's not right, or that's incorrect, or can you please repeat what I asked? It's still got a long way to go, and it can't take it literally as well, right?
It can't do, and it can't do simple things. I was playing around with it the other day trying to get my branding on point for LinkedIn posts. It can't, even if you said, right, here's my color palette, here's my brand identity, and then you give it a logo, still gets it wrong.
Yeah.
So let's come back. I want to dig into something that you mentioned earlier, and also Gary, you just picked up on, which is data. We were talking about the value of data, particularly in recruitment business, because this conversation is really to help navigate the impact of AI in the recruitment space. Let's just stick with data. So if we look at the agency world, the internal world as well, how important is data going to be moving forward?
I think it's going to be really important. And without making it sound like it's a trick question, AI can't survive unless it's got data. Right, that's the starting point. You have to remember all of these models and all of these things aren't based on you've asked 50 questions and they all come from a point of data. Now, some of that data is correct, some of that data is false. Just like the internet. When you put a search into Google, it isn't always going to come up with the right answer, right? So I think particularly for recruiters now, and look, let's be pretty frank, it's a flipping hard industry to be involved in now, right? Forget the technology elements coming through, forget clients getting smart about what we're doing, forget the economic challenges we've got. You have to find a competitive advantage however you can. If you've got good data and clean data and you're training your model, your LLM, to do it the right way, to do the right searches, to come up with the right outcomes, you're going to win. If you've got polluted data that's not clean and not structured, a bit like it was 15 years ago when people didn't put all the details on it, or
on your
they
database,
used to put the front page of the newspaper on as a candidate CV, so no one could find the CV, whatever it might be. My son did that, right? But it's all of these things coming through. It still points back to data is the foundation for AI. If there's no data and there's no clean data and there's no contextual data, recruiters are still going to fail. So you still need some form of a CV and repository, some form of an interview as a repository, some form of a job spec as a repository to mash and triangulate all that together.
So the data thing, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with like the bullhorn and virtual CRM access and remote, on site, It seems to me that, so it used to be, I don't know when you guys exited, and was there a value in your database? Was there a monetary value in having that database?
Totally.
Was
Absolutely,
there?
yeah.
Big monetary value?
Yeah.
Huge,
Big
yeah.
time.
Well, the company, your Henderson Scott, part of the reason when they went for their transaction, apart from the automations that they had, it was the data that they had.
It was, but the database was shocking. I know firsthand.
Yeah.
We didn't. Our database was not accurate, not up to date, wasn't coded properly. So it was a mismatch of bollocks, really.
But whatever they had was valuable to
It
someone.
was, but do you think that's as valuable today? Or do you think anyone can go and get that data from anywhere? Because you look at Apollo, you look at Zoom Info, you look at all these other tools now. There's so many scraping tools. You could get that data.
You can scrape
pretty
it and you
quickly.
can pull it in, but to qualify it, it's going to take time, right? And if you're working a contract market, while you're pulling that data in and you're qualifying and everything else, I've spoken to 5 qualified candidates that I knew on my database, who I've communicated with, know where they are. Speed becomes an issue, right? So to me, access to qualified, active, not, you can get passive candidates all day long. You want active candidates you can get access to immediately. Is this what's separating the specialist recruitment? Now, in the generalist market, blue collar, it's about volume, going through the data, pulling it all in, and the quicker you get it in, great, right? That's not a problem. There's never generally a shortage in the sort of blue collar market in that same way. But in the specialist markets that we're used to, if you're a Salesforce expert or a Oracle expert or whatever skills you've got, .NET, Java, getting access to those candidates, to me, especially in contract related business, is about finding out what their margins are, finding out when they're available, and booking them in as quickly as possible. It becomes critical. So I think it's still key.
I do agree, and it's always been the way that we've always thought, is that data is key, and that's why everyone's so protective of it. My sort of thoughts nowadays are going down the route of, you could scrape an Indeed, you could scrape LinkedIn, you could have chatbots.
I'll give you another example.
24/7 calling these people.
I got a colleague who works in a particular market in Germany, okay, and all they do is X development, right? In that city, and all their data is built up of every single candidate they built up in that market, and all they do is communicate with those candidates. And when they start looking for jobs, they don't go to LinkedIn, they go straight to them first, and then their sell to the client is, hi, Mr. Client, you're going to have to pay me 30%. Why is that? I've got candidates that are not on LinkedIn, that are not through the job boards. Do you want access to them first? That's their USP. It's their data. So they're selling their data as a justification for, 1, my fee, 2, I can get you best candidates. And all they say to the candidates, just give me 2 weeks. Give me a 2-week head start, and then you can go and that's how they work.
Where were you going with that, Tom? I felt like you're about to.
I've sort of got to the point now where, and me and you had a bit of a battle, didn't we, on AI and how much and how, and I've kind of gone down the route now of, where does AI stop? Because you could have, and in that situation where you're saying if they're not on LinkedIn, they're not, which I think is quite rare now. Most people, they might be on Zing.
They're on there, but my point is they're not active. And that's the problem with recruiters, right? You've got to go through all that to find, I
suppose the point I was making was, could you not train bots to continuously update and talk to these people?
Of course you can.
To do that. But that was the point I was going to make, was you could have a setup where you go, right, go and scrape these companies in this sector, get all their data, have bots continuously calling these people. You could set that up.
Let's take that back a step, because there's an important point which I think actually going to come from you, Gary, which is that you sent me something the other day, and you said, "Listen to this. It's me. I'm a bot. You can talk to me, right?" And it was good. So, how far away are we, do you think, from that bot being indistinguishable from you?
I think I know this is going to sound, I was speaking to the tech guy who he reckons we're 6 months or 12 months away.
Okay. So how does that change the landscape for your pal in Germany when he can have a bot that's indistinguishable from himself, that's making the same calls?
So if I'm a niche specialist candidate in demand, it depends on whether you embrace that or not. Some people are going to go, I don't want to speak to a bot.
But do they know?
But you're going to have to tell them, right? You have to. Legally, right? I don't think you're in a
I
situation
think that is coming. So one of the things we haven't touched on is the legal
compliance,
the compliance and regulatory change.
Stuff,
It's a bit like when you create an image now on LinkedIn, it has a CR in the corner, so you have to credential it.
Yeah.
But okay, I always use this practical example, right? I think to myself, I walk into a cafe, right? I'm gluten-free. Say what you will. Is that gluten-free, please? I got someone, there's a human there. Yeah, I think so. Yes, gluten-free. It's easier to tell me it's gluten-free rather than go and actually find out.
Yeah.
Right? And then I've got a bot there, and I ask it, and it goes, it is gluten-free. The oats are from here, and it's this, and it's 52 grams of this and 15 grams of that, and the manufacturer has a process which does whatever. So I don't know how rapidly I value the experience with that bot in that example over the human. That level of intelligence with your indistinguishable version, which one do I prefer? Because the question is, do I want to talk to the real Gary?
I think the bit that you talked about, Gary, was the mindset of those people, and that I agree with you, by the way, because we've had this conversation in what I'm doing, and we've gone blue collar. That's where we sit. That's where we play. That's where high volume, and I've made that decision. It doesn't work at this level,
Right.
for now.
Yet, yeah.
And I think that's the point. And I think there's an adoption, there's a education. I think it will get to that point. I think what will happen is people at that level, the senior people, the salaries, they will accept that's now just what we do. At the minute, they're not. They feel undervalued. They feel a little bit, that's a bit cheap. What, you don't care enough to talk to me? I'm a 100k candidate. There is still that divide.
Yep.
I think that divide will close. I think we'll get to the point when they're going, that's just now part of the process. That's just part of what we do,
This is the killer question, isn't it? Is there going to be a point in which intelligent connection is valued greater than human connection?
Look, so I don't know where it's, because if I look at the way mobile phones are going at the moment, right? And we talked about in Ibiza. There's certain clubs you go to in Ibiza now. It's like, right, no more phones, right? And you've got to be over a certain age, and you've got to put your sticker on your phone, because it's taking the fun out of partying, right? And I think we just got, AI may get to that stage where when I ring a bank, and if I'm speaking to a machine, or I'm getting a automation, it just puts me off. So there's going to be, of course, there's going to be a need for that. I'll just give you this example, which just blew my mind away, right? So the company I'm working with is putting the tech together. They go into this company and they create adverts, right? And these three guys are responsible. One's creative, blah, blah, blah. They did a clone of the three guys, right? Looked at all the previous ads they've done, did psychometric tests with them, did an assessment, took everything together. And then the three of them went over there, the few humans, and then you had the three bots. And then you had the interaction. The bots were talking to each other, three bots talking to each other, having proper conversations as they would as humans. And then the idea was to come up with an advert, right, for this company. And then they came up with the bots came up with it. The three came up with their version, and they sat down which one's the best one. They went with the bot. And then with the bot, they said, right, with the idea, they went to their creative department. And let's say there's 20 people in the creative department. So you go away and do what you do to bring this advert to life. And then the AI did exactly what those 20 people did. And you go back in a room and there's 20 people going, we're out of a job. And the guys that they got all the knowledge from, they're going, so now they're in a situation where you create an ad with no human touch. So you're going to get to a situation where if that can give us the end result, like you said, why wouldn't you go for it? If you don't need it, and if you're a candidate with specialist skills and you don't need to talk to a bot or you don't need to talk to, then you're going to determine whether the human interaction is important or not.
But you've still got to go back to the point, right? And this is the thing we the conversation started with what's going to happen with recruitment. I'm sure we'll come back. But in that particular instance, if you had not recruited those people in to do the work, to have the content for the bots to learn and bots to train. Now, the reality is most bots today are what are called dumb bots. They don't learn and evolve, etc. So you still need humans doing the job, doing the content, doing the output that they can learn from. Now, if you fast forward, actually what's going to end up happening is LLMs will be self-learning. They'll learn from their mistakes, right? Whereas at the moment...
This is this is the technology we're offering, right? So my bot will learn more than I'm learning, right? It's going to be better than me because I can't remember all the training material that I put together 10, 20 years ago, but this bot can. I can't remember when I get some of your material and put it in there and it comes out, I can't remember everything you've done. So this is going to be better than me. You're going to get better answers than me. So if you don't need to speak to me, which you don't, most people don't want to speak to me anyway, why wouldn't you go to a bot? But there'll be some markets where they go, well, I don't want that. So I think you've got to find your place, right?
I think, because like I say, this is something we've been, whilst we're on this journey, trying to find market fit. This is one of the things that we've battled with, is who is ready for it and who isn't. In my mind, because of my experience when I had Evans, Denham, Henderson, Scott, we were getting 50,000 applications a month coming in. I was like, fucking everyone's going to want this. They don't, because ServiceNow, Salesforce, whatever, those guys, they're not interested. They haven't got that adoption yet because there's a nervousness, there could be an arrogance, there could be an ego, whatever it may be. They're going, I don't want to talk to a bot, I deserve to talk to a person. Shelf stackers, whatever, in blue collar, they're more than happy. The thing that I've realised now is it's education. Because if you think about a resourcer, so this is the bit that when I'm selling the platform to people, is think about a resourcer or a junior TA. They might have 6 months, 12 months in the job. If it's a TA, they've probably gone from a retail to a manufacturing to a construction, different industries. So they don't know the skills. They don't know the requirements. They're just going off the job description and their perceived knowledge. So a CV comes along, they look at that CV, their perceived knowledge, they make a decision on whether we go to the next stage or not. And that's based on their own perceived knowledge, experience, whatever. Yeah. If an AI looks at that, an AI is using all of that information, all of that resource to make an instant decision, and it's so much more factual and so much more qualified than a 21-year-old junior resourcer who's kind of going on a bit of a gut feel, that for me is where I go, you've got to trust that. You've got to trust the AI because it's able to pull all this information in. It can look at the companies and go, are they industry specific? Within instance of seconds. It can look at skills and go, if they've got that skill, they've probably got that skill and that skill and that skill that aren't mentioned. The junior TA can't do that. And that for me is where I go, surely you would talk to or surely you'll trust that AI, but it's the adoption and the lack of education in the market that's preventing that from happening, because they're going, no, I don't trust that. Data could be wrong. No, they're biased. I'd rather have a human. But when you break it down and go,
but the difference is, rather than having 10 humans to do that, you can have that and you'll have 2 humans, not 10, to oversee it. If there's a question of doubt,
we've got in a minute a bit of a marketing campaign, which is for the cost of half a junior resourcer, you can have talent matched and it will 10x the output of one TA for half for the cost of half a TA for 12 grand a year, 15 grand a year. I'll give you the output of 10 times junior resources and be more accurate and be less biased, and but there's still an adoption of that. There's still this nervousness. There's still this, But
you've got to remember, recruitment's never leading edge, is it? We normally, when it comes to tech, we're usually 5-6 years behind other industries. Yeah. So it takes time to change, right?
The only challenge we've got is we're emotionally attached to the industry as well, right? And so it's having that objective view. And I don't think that anything's going to take 5 or 6 years to change this time. I think that's the difference, isn't it? The speed of deployment and the speed of this. The question we raised a moment ago was, I think we've done full circle, which is, at what point do we value the intelligence ahead of the human connection, because that's what we're really validating. If you take everything you've just said there, and when I look at this, I look at it from a parallel perspective. So if you look outside of our industry, let's talk about some of the most challenging or complex things that you've seen it do. If you look at an AI perspective, I mean, autonomous vehicles, it's an obvious one, isn't it? Right. Or the application for scientists to discover, now able to do formulas across all different proteins with the Google DeepMind tool.
Yeah.
I can only see a place where this technology is able to provide a more scientific approach to solving the problems that we associate with solving in recruitment in the way that humans operate. Do you know what I mean? We think about solving it the way we would solve it.
Yeah.
But you're not necessarily solving the problem with talent match in the same way that a human would.
No.
I think you're covering way more criteria, as an example. When you're analysing candidates, how many criteria do you take into consideration?
I mean, on the baseline, 6.
Yep.
Could be cultural experience, skills, trajectory. But in the broader, 50, 60, 70, could be 100 different things they're looking at.
And that all gets factored into the
All
shortlisting.
gets put in, yeah.
Great. And if you look at your helper and where you're going with that, how would you compare that to the way that a human might operate?
So the idea of having a helper as opposed to an agent. So we talked about, and Gary mentioned earlier on, they're everywhere, right? And Tom's talked about it. So the reason why we're going down the helper route versus an agent is very simple. We have two fundamental problems. So you've talked about adoption being a big problem, right? Fundamentally, we have a challenge at the moment where people will not engage with agents because they're worried about, is that going to take my job? So that's the first thing, like the marketing guys. The second challenge we've got around, and it's not just recruitment, it's any industry where there's a degree of control involved in delivering a task or delivering a control where my name's on the badge. But if we come back to recruiters specifically, recruiters are control freaks, right? So the minute they lose control, they lose confidence in the product. Fact. All the way through. So what we're saying is, like, let's flip it down the other way around. And my whole premise about this, Ezra, and we talked about it when I came on in January, February, right, in your podcast, was like, how do we get this intelligence, artificial intelligence, to enable and empower humans to be better at whatever job or task they do, right? So we keep talking about replacing, right? We can't have 8 billion people on universal income. It just can't work. Right. So the idea has got to be, okay, well, whatever can be automated, whatever you can use AI for, do that. But the micro tasks are literally, let me take this element away from you so you can do something else that you really need to do.
This concept of it just can't happen. What is it materially about the way that recruiters operate that we believe can't be done more efficiently, more effectively with these technologies 12, 18, 24 months from now? If I just talk about the technologies that you've got first-hand experience of, your ability to match, your ability to create an avatar which is absolutely indistinguishable from you in voice, tone, the depth of data that you can capture, the metric, the analytics that you can cover. So what is it that is going to not be resolved?
So let's start off with the first conversation about what do you tell your kids today about what job to go to? I can't see in the roadmap of all the stuff I've read and every research report. So the biggest elements that humans are still going to be needed, recruiter skills still going to be needed, judgment calls, where you've got to manage people. AI can't manage people coming through. And we're particularly talking about candidates. The trend is already coming through that the job spec is being created with AI, the candidate CV is being created with AI, and there's hallucinations. The candidate can't do. So the human element coming in, which I don't think AI can replace, is can you be that judgment call, that relationship holder, because we still need relationships, right? With clients, with candidates, specialists, but even blue collar markets, someone's still got to go and win the business.
It's the soft skills for me. It's the relationship bit. It's a candidate goes, not quite sure. And you had the influence about why and where. Sometimes I make a fact-based decision, but sometimes it's the emotional decisions that you say, look, based on what I've seen or what I've heard and an AI can't see and hear in the same way, right? Or the culture, the environment, or you go and meet a client, you sit down, you have a meal together, you have a conversation together. Those softer skills to me, we always say is, does AI have empathy in the same way? Can it build relationships in the same way? People say, yeah, most really could, but I don't think that human interaction, I think, is going to be critical. So I think there'll be a lot of people behind the scenes using a lot more technology to improve efficiency. I always believe, one of the businesses I'm involved in at the moment, all our focus is at the moment is 40 relationships. I want 40 meetings a month now, not 10, not 5, because I've got resources in the background doing a lot of the mundane aspects of it. You've got no excuse now. Instead of spending all your time trying to find CVs and match CVs, don't worry about that. We've got that covered. You go out and build relationships.
Well, so let's talk about that relationship bit. We have to look at the entire landscape, because the success of a recruitment agency is dependent on the competence of the customer. These tools which we're building, you're selling to both markets, right? So these tools are going to become available to internal recruitment teams.
Of course they are, yeah. But they're not specialist internal recruiters, are they?
But their line managers are.
Yeah, but if you're up against like internal recruiters, this is why all these tech platforms didn't work, right? So when Hired came along, we're going to disrupt the recruitment industry. How are you going to do that? Well, we've got 10 people and we're going to find all these candidates, all different, and they couldn't manage all those candidates because they never had the expertise to do it, number one. And number two, you're competing against 100 agencies that just do that particular subject. So when you need a CV, you can't compete. So I believe, so what I'm saying is I internal recruiters will be able to do aspects of the job, especially when it's volume based, matching. But again, I think those markets are in trouble anyway, right? These blue collar type markets, it's very volume driven. Technology has taken over, impacted that more than the white collar professional market. We've seen that, right? That relationship element of it, we'll lose out to some of it to internal recruiters. Of course we will. But the markets as the market becomes smaller and smaller, I think we have to become more specialists and specialists to have that distinction between a generalist. So I think that's the way I think the market will go. I don't think you're going to need as many recruitment agencies as you do now. You know, S3 had 3,000 recruiters. I reckon it'll be a situation where you might need half of that to get the same impact. But you just got to remember, when all these technologies came along, new CRMs, LinkedIn, everything else, we were doing a yield of 1 a month. What are we doing now? Still doing a yield of 1 a month. So, you know, everyone says, oh, it's going to improve. It will take time because everyone says technology, LinkedIn, everyone's still doing the same number of deals. It's just becomes, but I think with technology, and I think it's going to advance so much quicker than before, I think it's going to have a bigger impact in the next 5 years than it's had in the previous 20 years.
But intelligence, I guess, is expertise, is it? Or is it slightly different?
Depending on which part of the process you're talking about. I think if it's matching,
I'm talking about relationships.
AI would trump any recruiter in matching, instant decisions.
But then speaking to someone to assess whether they're suitable or not, the soft skills, I think that's where you just need a human, right? You can have, for every 10 people that were doing that before, maybe you need 1 human to do it, because all they're doing is the qualifying, making sure they say the right things, or they understand what their motivations really are. Because you can say on a piece of paper, I want to do this, A, B, and C, but when you speak to someone, you go, yes doesn't mean yes, and no doesn't mean no, and that human element, I think, is going to make the clear distinction.
So the bit that I've seen, we had a bit of a bantery kind of a disagreement, didn't we? We involved my wife on a call, and we got AI to do some empathetic advice way better than. I mean, she was awful, wasn't she? She was fucking like.
So just give that some context. So, God, do you want to explain what would be done?
Yeah. So we basically on the post on LinkedIn, we kind of had a bit of a disagreement. I was of the view that people were more empathetic than AI. Ezra, of course, challenged that and was like, no, I think AI could do that. I was like, don't be stupid. Came in on the podcast. We created a scenario, didn't we? A very unique scenario, which was somebody that worked for me, married couple, also best friends of me and my wife. There was an affair going on. It was a same-sex affair, it turned out to be as well. We were going for a big kind of business was launching. We were all connected. Did we now go and raise this? Did I go and raise the affair? The same-sex affair, it was going to cause... Anyway, who do we go to for advice?
Ezra.
my wife or AI. Now I should have realised my wife has zero empathy when we put her forward. She was like, no, fuck them, it's their problem. Focus on the business. AI was like, we can do counselling, we can talk to the children, we can go into schools, we can create a program. It was like...
It's unbelievable. It basically created a program for how Tom should ensure that he's got a lot going on right now in work. And so the first thing is he needs some parameters and boundaries to protect him before people lean into him for support, emotional support, and advice. Then it gave a plan for how to address it.
It was controlling everything, and it was thinking about everyone.
It was meticulous, wasn't it?
Yeah, my wife was fucking useless.
I don't think there was any part of that plan that you wouldn't have.
No,
wouldn't have.
I mean, I'd like to think if we had someone slightly more empathetic than my wife, it might have had a better outcome. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think anyone would have competed with that.
No,
you can't you?
No,
because it's getting psychology and it's bringing everything else
it was
in, right?
pulling in all these different resources.
I'm trained my AI bot to be convincing on behalf of me as a customer when it talks to that candidate.
If it can react instantly when someone says a certain word and it's a prompt to say that, and is it more than a gut feel? I suppose.
Can it spot the red flags? Is the bit. Can it spot the bits that we know are
because of the tone of how they said it, not what they said, it's how they said it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. The small little things when someone says, "Yeah, I'm going to take that job." So in paper, I'm going to take that job. You say to take it, but when they said yeah, and the way they said you go,
or a delay in responding. We know that delay probably means they're not.
So the moment that we move into tonality.
Which will happen.
So I was looking for material challenges. Like I'm looking for the science. Like they say, if science says it can't be done, then fair enough. So there we are. That's a material point, isn't it? I don't know if you agree with this, but of the sales reps and the recruiters that you work with, the difference between the good and the bad are the people that actually read that tonality. That's actually just
totally.
Would you agree with
that?
The bit maybe, and maybe this is where I'm just thinking as we're talking here. So I had some examples when I was still doing a bit of recruitment, and I would have recruitment consultants, quite credible people, a few years experience, and some juniors that weren't as credible, and they would be working a role, and I would say, "Oh, call Pete. Like Pete's fucking brilliant for it." They'd call Pete, and Pete would be like, "No, fuck off, mate. I'm not talking to you." Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, "Fuck's sake, right? Okay, well." Send Pete a message from my LinkedIn or something, and so they would send it from or from their LinkedIn first. Again, look, fuck off, just blank them, ignore them. Send it from my LinkedIn, and they still might ignore them, maybe, I don't know. If I called Pete, they would answer the phone, and they would listen to me about the opportunity because of the relationship I had with Pete, because of that credibility, the past history, the relationship. They would listen to me, they'd have a conversation, and we would place Pete. But if it was done through the consultant who didn't know, they just thought, "Oh, fuck, it's another recruiter, I'm not going to bother," or "I've got time for this, it's not someone I know," they wouldn't do it.
So let me peel that back a minute.
Maybe that's where...
Peel it back a minute, Tom. How have you made that investment with Pete for Pete to take your call?
Years and years of...
So that is a relationship, right?
Yeah. The bit that Ezra will throw at us is that you could replicate me, you could create me to do that, and him think it's me, but then I think you run into...
There'd be a brick
transparency, you run into regulatory compliance. If it's someone pretending to be me, so I do think there is still that credibility and history element at certain things that might be a blocker with AI. You've got credibility in industry, you've all got credibility in industry. You guys can probably pick up the phone to certain people right now today that other people probably couldn't get through to, probably. So I think it's that bit I would say potentially is where AI doesn't have that yet. You could probably open doors to certain companies that you know that cold AI couldn't do that, but you could probably go into another company and do that because of your credibility, reputation, network, name dropping, etc. Could AI do that?
This opens a really interesting door, which is let's think of an influencer that someone you look up to anywhere globally. I'm not talking in our sector. Anybody, when you look up and who do you like to listen to? You think smart, or is anyone in particular?
No.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I watch Joe Rogan, but he kind of annoys me a little bit. Yeah. Say Joe Rogan,
But or someone like someone who's got good principles, like some of the leaders like Bezos or Musk or
Musk.
Yeah,
Good principles.
Yeah.
Chris Williamson's good. Modern Wisdom, he's good.
Yeah.
Like
Ray Dalio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So look,
Goggins, maybe. You know.
yeah, got for different things, right?
Yeah.
So the question would be, if Ray Dalio is smart as he's strategic, economic, right? If he has a digital twin and it had all of his intelligence, would you work with that digital twin on your?
Well, that's what I'm creating.
Strategic
Because
plan.
I'm getting people to go in to clone top billers,
Yep.
look at what top billers are doing, and then that company can say, why do top billers do well? And the whole idea is to clone them, find out what emails they send, listen to their conversations, how they handle objections, get them into role plays, and then from that, you could train all your staff based on not just the top billers and the MD and the person in training, and you got it in one place. So I believe that's where we're going.
In training, I think that works, definitely. Yeah.
That's where we're going.
And
Why
so-
wouldn't I'd listen to Ray Dalio if he was a bot and he can give me, as long as I don't care if it's Ray Dalio, I just care what he says, right?
It's a one-way communication, though, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
no,
that's-
No, it doesn't have to be, does it?
Completely interactive. Yeah.
It's not though, is it? That's
But
what it's changing.
would that work though if that was a business development? So you were gonna in your businesses you were gonna go, right, I'm gonna go and network in all my connections, all my networks. I'm gonna go and open up all those doors that from the relationships I've built for years and years and years. It's not gonna be me. It's gonna be the bot of me. Would that still get the same responses?
Not yet.
If they knew it was the bot of you and not you properly,
Not
would they
yet.
be thinking, fucking hell, Ezra, mate, you're sitting there chilling in the background, so I'm having a beer, and you've got your fucking bot calling me.
Just like your bot was speaking to their bot.
Yeah, probably. If they pulled their bot up, maybe.
yeah.
But why wouldn't I?
Maybe it's that adoption piece. Maybe we'll get to that point where they go, fuck, like it's bots talking to bots, fuck it.
Yeah, but if Tom's brilliant at his job, he's got brilliant principles, and he's my number one recruiter. If I take this from a consulting perspective, just take consulting, parallel industry, right? The partner walks in, super smart, dead sharp. What's everyone's fear about working with consultancies? That you meet the partner,
And never see him again.
and what happens? They ship
Juniors
the
come in.
work to
Yeah,
the
you go
juniors,
down the value, yeah.
right? So if I take that, if I now have access to the partner
I agree.
digitally,
Yeah.
so in the future, my argument to this,
Yeah.
okay, is
Yeah.
do I want a digital version of Tom Wood, this exceptional recruiter, or my choice is that I want some other recruiter fulfilling, because you can fill all my, right, if I believe you've got great principles, I can deploy you across multiple searches. I'm not worried about, so do you understand what I mean? Like, so that argument around, because you can't look at this in a kind of, in a linear way, can you? You've got to look at it, the breadth of it. How much better is the digital expert, indistinguishable? Yes, I know he's got a little trademark on. This is a digital twin. How much better do you think he could be?
It all depends on what he's been fed.
Yes.
So it could be, hold on, it's Gary Plus, and they go, the plus might be not the right thing. It might changes from what makes me who I am. This is what I know, and based on my own experience. The bot is going to be based on me, but plus everything else. Then all of a sudden, it's never me. Then is it?
But it's also the judgment call, right? Because
It's not going to be me.
The one thing is, in that moment, what that person says, will go, actually, I remember that. Actually, that's relevant now. And that's the human element of going, right, it's not X plus Y equals Z. It's like, well, I'm listening to you talking about this, and you go, actually, you know what? This is also now relevant. Whereas your pre-trained bot, digital twin, will always follow the recipe.
I'm just being devil's advocate here, right?
Yeah.
Isn't the issue that the reason I know that candidate off the top of my head, that's me just accessing a pretty limited memory,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The memory is available at scale here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. The bot will never be the same person. It will have elements of it, but it won't be pure in the same sense. Now, it depends if that's important or not, right? If it's a transactional deal and I'm thinking I'm going to get 70% of what Gary's worth rather than not getting him at all, I'd rather take that. And that's what you're saying, right? In that situation, a consultancy is going, right, I've got access to this partner. I've got all his knowledge, his expertise there as well. And I've got his little junior there. I've got a bit of best of both worlds at a little bit, right? And at the moment, I see the partner and never see him again.
Yes.
I'll take that at the same price,
Yes.
in which it will be, right? It won't be any more expensive, I don't think.
You could take, I mean, I'm just thinking about how I operate a lot of the time is probably as you all do, is on our phone. Even when I was in recruitment, I said, Kalpesh, to you earlier, when I was running Evans Denham, I I beat everyone to use Bullhorn because of the value of the database. I didn't use Bullhorn. I used my phone. 20,000 contacts in my phone. I used my phone. That was just how I was ingrained in me working. You could probably train a bot to go into my phone,
Of course.
to access all of my WhatsApp messages,
Exactly.
all of my emails.
That's what it does.
It can gather all that information. It can pick out
How you
conversations
respond.
I've had with Ezra.
Yeah.
It can remember all those things, and then it can do outreach from my phone as me to all those people in the tone that we've had a conversation and we've had a conversation, and it can, So I think in that regard, it can do all those things.
But at what point would you still want to have the human in the loop? And at what point is it automated?
I don't know. This is the problem. I don't know.
There's a real estate guy, right? He does training
That's a great
courses.
question.
He does training for everyone in real estate, right? This is what he does. And he sells it really well. And he says, look, I want to get access to more people, but I've only got so much time in a day. So create a clone of him, then added some extra things that he might need, created this clone plus. He goes, that material's amazing. And then got the bots to call all the real estate agents and say, oh, would you be interested in this calls? Instead of making one call at a time, it's making hundreds of calls at the same time. 30-40% more leads coming in on the back of it. It's just basic stuff that can be done now, which we're seeing, that we've got to say, it's got to change. And your example there is people going to go, I'd rather not talk to one, but it's better than not talking to anyone. So the way you look at it, you've got, I can speak to 1,000 people now before I can only speak to 10. Yep. Those 1,000 people, if I convert 10% of that, it's still more than the 10 I was getting through to. The maths adds up, right?
Yes.
And that's I think that's where it's going to have a biggest impact.
I think it comes back to the point early on, which was the adoption of that way of working. I honestly, I think right now, and when I've looked at the blue collar market, the reason there's adoption for our platform in the blue collar market is because actually the applicants are doing the same fucking thing. The applicants are spamming out their CVs to 20, 30,000 different places. Yeah. So when they get a bot response, they're going, well, that's just how it works.
But it's also, if you think about the dynamic of those, so what you're talking about is those, at some point we've got to change blue collar and white collar. It doesn't make sense anymore, right? Or low skilled, high skilled.
Yeah.
But effectively what you're talking about is you're dealing with deskless workers that are used to having an app or a phone to do all their transaction normally.
Not in all cases. No, well, not yet. I mean, call centres, those kind of things. They're still at desks.
But most blue collar workers are not.
Lorry drivers, warehouse, But I think the mentality is there, which is they know it's high volume. They know because of how their behaviour is, it's high volume. They've signed up to Quick Apply website. They can spam out their application 30,000 places. They're probably also in the mentality of I'm going to get ghosted, which they probably do 90% of the time. So getting any kind of connection actually is good. So they've almost made that transition, I think, just because of the nature of the industry.
They've had to.
Yeah. I don't think high value is there, but I think it will get there.
If you think about that evolution, right? So let's stick to blue collar, right? And then and your platform's doing some incredible stuff now in terms of matching, and you're trying to give value back as well now. Yeah. To the applicant, right? That's key different. Let's go back 40 years ago, when James Reed sat up in Hounslow with his office and everyone walked in for their shift at Heathrow Airport or whatever it might be. The value of that relationship was you went into one office, he had the contract with there, that's where you had to go to if you want to get into. Now, the reality is there's hundreds of suppliers now that have access to hundreds of opportunities. So it is a little bit like you've got to play the race game. Yeah. And you said something jokingly, right? All we're talking about at the moment is the recruiter or the worker's job changing and how they're going to engage with their audience, their customers. Well, 2 years, 3 years, as technology gets cheaper, if I'm a job seeker, I'm not going to go look for myself. My bot will do it for me. And they'll talk to the recruiters or they'll talk in-house or they'll talk to the job board and they'll basically concierge the right jobs for me that then I'm going to get involved in. So the world will change a bit further. And the other thing, Ezra, is the one thing the assumption we're making at the moment is the job of the recruiters is the job of the recruiters we know it today.
Yeah.
I don't think
evolution of that.
The job is, there's going to be a whole bunch of job titles, and as this stuff comes in and skills get taken away and elements of the 360 recruiter today as we know it disappear, there will be other things that recruiters will be more valuable to do, not you're right, we won't need 200,000 recruitment consultants in the UK anymore, but we'll still need a population of people doing a whole bunch of things we haven't even thought about today.
And that's part of how we go to market with our platform. Is we don't want to say we'll replace all your staff, because I feel there's a big negativity around that generally. I think if you started selling a platform going, you can sack everyone, you're probably not going to get much positivity. But you can redeploy, you can upskill, and actually there is a bit of a campaign we're doing at the minute, which is about how organisations have potentially held back quality by not putting them into more proactive roles and upskilling them. So by getting somebody that's gone to Nottingham University and got a 2-1 degree, and you've got them sifting through 1,000 applications, you're holding them back.
Yeah.
So actually there's give them the ability to move forward, put them into better positions, because we can deal with that shit over there.
But I suppose the question is, by doing that mundane aspect of the job, does that not make them better at it? Is that not how you learn your trade?
No, I disagree.
I don't know, not
I
anymore.
disagree.
It used to be.
Yeah.
It used to cut your teeth, didn't you?
So let me come
all
out of
did.
recruitment for a minute, right? Let's go into accountancy or law. And I had this conversation with someone today, right? In accountancy, 20, 30 years ago, when you joined in an accountancy firm, basically your first 3 months was filing, right? If you joined a law firm, your first couple of months was learning how to photocopy, right? What value did you learn doing that? It was basically the crap job no one else wanted to do. So I think as we were taught, and I remember my first day was, here's 50 CVs. Right, we're not going to tell you any more than this job title. Go and find the good one. And I got to the end of the day going, I'm going to fail today. I'm out. I'm out of a job today. I was like, I've gone through them and they go, which is a good one? I'm like, no, they're all rubbish. I said, brilliant. Come back tomorrow. We'll tell you what a good CV looks like.
So,
but that's been replaced now. That's the point, I suppose, isn't it? Because that job now, historically, that was the case. You cut your teeth, you learn, you know what good looks like. It doesn't matter if you know what good looks like anymore, because you're not going to do that job anymore. AI will do that so much quicker, so much more accurate. So maybe there's an element of.
So we're going to take the skill out of that person then. So what are they going to be good at?
Well, no,
what's the different skills?
They would have hopefully different skills. I mean, I would like to think there's proactive outreach, there's strategic targeting, there's strategic headhunting, there's relationship building, maybe it becomes more customer successy, maybe it is targeted business development.
Orchestration.
I don't think you need junior resources anymore. You might need SDRs. Maybe the recruitment industry needs to copy the software business a bit, and you maybe have your frontline isn't resources, it's SDRs, it's BDRs. But then you could argue you've got AI can do the SDR BDR bit.
the other challenge I think that we haven't kind of factored in, if you take a macro view of this, right, what we also have to understand is that the technology is going to impact the audience that recruiters serve, right? And the technologies, their accessibility to that audience, right? So as AI scales, right, people are going to start to become more protective of of their accessibility, how they are available on social media.
Yeah.
I mean, if we take LinkedIn, in my opinion, probably looks to me like it has some sort of like closed community future, which is they have to then authenticate you as a human to come into the community, right? Because otherwise it's going to be rogue, right? And so they're going to get as they tighten that community up. We're seeing that email conversion rates are just decimated, right? Calls are changing.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure that everyone will have an avatar receptionist, which will call. It'll understand you, then connect you and go, hey, it's Tom calling. Do you want to call? Do you want to take the call or not? All that will just become digitalized. So what that means is that the talent pool becomes less accessible. People become less accessible.
Fair.
The direction of travel is that those things are. Would everyone agree that they're going to get tighter? Do we still think email's going to decline? Conversion rate's going to decline?
I think phone calls, emails have been in a constant decline for the last.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that happened.
I think it is.
Yes.
But
it's smarter now. You can't get your emails through now. You can't get through to people now.
The
filters
firewalls
become
now. Microsoft have gone mental with their firewalls. Yeah. I do think in both of those examples, and we've been running some tests on this with various outreach, and they are becoming more successful than they were because it's going back to that tried and tested human.
If you have a
element.
relationship first.
Yeah, well, getting a phone call. So you see it on LinkedIn, all the bullshit, but actually some of it is true. Actually getting a phone call, a cold call, as opposed to some other kind of social media is becoming more unique. So actually
from a human.
But what are you measuring there, Tom?
No, so I'm talking more about, say, business development. So let's say, for example, us selling Talent Match to a end user,
so this is
corporate company.
Right.
So outreach, cold outreach, those kind of things.
Yep.
That's where actually a phone call now, ringing somebody, as opposed to some kind of a LinkedIn automation sequence, some kind of a social media sequence, some kind of a automated email ad.
Yep.
Actually, a phone call is being better received because it has become rarer.
Is that a cold call or is that a plan call?
You try and do it off some kind of intent is probably best, yeah. So it wouldn't be cold. To the user, potentially it's cold. To us, it probably isn't cold because we've tracked the intent, we've tracked the, where they're being.
But that's where data comes in, right? Because we all know cold calls are not as efficient as a warm or a hot call, right? So, but if you've got, when you do make that call, when you've got access to data, which you do now, and say, "Hi, John, we spoke X, but also I realised you did this, and I read this about you on this," then that's a different call all of a sudden, right? But I'm with you. I'm seeing a lot of the businesses that I'm involved in, they've gone back to old school, 2-hour phone times.
Yeah.
Want you speaking to people.
Yep.
I want you to do that because emails are not working anymore.
Yep.
It's all automated now, all the filters. So you think your emails are being delivered nowadays, and it's not. So you look at you used to get like a 2% open rate, right? It's just fallen off a cliff now, right? So I'm with you. I think that I've seen a lot of businesses that have done well in this market. We've seen all these decline in recruitment. There are a few businesses that I'm involved in, and they keep it very, very old school still, right? It's okay. Phone times, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. And these are your targeted lists. You start with your hot calls, your warm calls, and then you do your cold.
So is that another moat for the human engagement thing? Because I see it as potentially, but I see some holes in that argument as well. Right.
But it might just be adoption again, because what we might be seeing is that we're all pissed off with bots, and we're all pissed off with automation, and we're all pissed off with, because there's so much of it that we're resisting the adoption of where it's going, and we're going, fucking hell, just call me.
Exactly.
Is in 6 months' time, when we've kind of been worn down.
Can we have lunch?
Yeah.
Can we go out?
Yeah.
Can we socialise?
But in 6 months' time, when we've all been worn down to the tech, and we've all been worn down to where it's gone, and we go, that is just what it is now. And so whether we're on that middle bit of the minute where we've still got this resistance and people are craving a bit of human interaction,
I don't think we're nowhere near there yet, because I just think we are at such an early stage of this evolution. This is as bad as it's going to get. It's just going to get better. So we are where, when the internet first came and only certain people used it, we are in such an early phase of this. So I think we've got a long journey now
on that adoption journey.
Yeah.
And there's going to be resistance from, I think, so many sectors. There's going to be pushback as well. And I think there will be people that revert back from it because some of the stuff that's been churned out is shit.
Agreed.
Everyone's sticking AI on it. I mean, I've seen so many potential competitors to what I do, and you look at them and they're some engineer in Bangkok that's just created a company and gone, we can do it.
It's when they spell AI wrong.
Yeah. And you go, fucking hell.
What made the adoption of ChatGPT so rapid?
Billions behind them so that you can give access for free, right?
Free access. So if you think about the original versions of LLMs, it was $2,000 a month or whatever for very little. So the price came down to make it accessible. The technology improved.
So
the functionality improved. So it was a combination of 3 or 4 things at the same time. But the fundamental thing is, how do I get it in more people's hands?
How did anyone know about ChatGPT?
It became a domestic product.
They must have pumped millions into everyone knowing about it, right? But the Chinese equivalent, when they did that, they said ChatGPT was like 2, 3, 4 billion. I can't remember the Chinese company did equivalent. DeepSeek, yeah, they did it for 5 million or something. Learning from. But I think they had a strong foundation behind it. But how many other?
Well, they were raising billions. I mean, even when Musk, I can't remember what Musk was called.
That doesn't address adoption, though. That's marketing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I think
know about
making it mainstream.
Yeah.
If you can make something mainstream, it's probably
If your
more
mum's
likely to be
using it, you
adopted,
know.
and it becomes
Someone down the
mainstream.
supermarket said, "Hey, have you been on this GPT thing?" I think again, like, taking it back a level, you're right. It's the marketing. Take the marketing bit out of it. The fundamentals of it are the product is cheaper,
Yep.
so accessibility works well. The product is better,
They're qualified better.
so it actually now does something and gives you a result back
Yep.
that you can work from, right? And then the final part is the user interface. So if you go back to Chat GPT 1 or whatever it was, 1.5, it looked shit, right? You couldn't use it properly. To log in didn't work. It was like old dial-up internet, right? If you think about the experience. So now you go on there and anyone from 3 years old to 97 years old can use it with some degree of logic.
So it's the simplicity of the service.
Yes.
User interface, yeah.
I think because
And cost. Don't forget the
That
cost
comes
bit.
back to something you mentioned.
yeah.
So your issue with adoption was when you launched your platform, what happened? You spoke about this lovely dashboard.
Oh yeah. Great. We spent ages on colours. Fucking, it looked great. Everyone, it was like branding. Nights of like, no, it's got
I'm
to be
laughing
blue, it's
because
got,
that's what he does.
it's got to be gold. It was like, but this was like, it kept me awake at night, and I was ringing up fucking India, going, guys, too much gold. More, and it changing all this UI. No one gives a shit about the fucking UI. They don't. Certain companies will if they've got less tech and they might want a nice, simple to use dashboard. Just give them the results.
So the expectation, that's the interesting point. So accessibility comes down to the immediacy of the results. They are taking the benefit of the result over the need for interfaces and does that make sense? Like the
well, I
comprehensiveness of
suppose the simple way to look at it is if you said to somebody when you're using Amazon, if you said to somebody, right, you're going to use Amazon, but actually what we're going to do is when you're doing your shopping on Amazon or you're doing your Tesco shop, for example, we're going to have another platform that's then going to create items that we think are really good for you based on what you've been buying over here, but you've got to go over here and look at them. You're probably going to go, really? What, I've got to log into that one? Then I've got, fuck that, I'm not going to bother. I'll just choose my things. And that was kind of the mentality we had, was they don't want to go from here and go over here and then go back over here. So actually it was, well, if we can have it here, but you're going to get the output in this same platform. Oh, okay, yeah, great. That's easy.
Just taking that scenario and that window that you've just articulated nicely, Kalpesh. Does that mean that the experience is what needs to be addressed by AI? Is it people that are going to find a way of addressing the experience of recruiting rather than...
And the value.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And delivering the results.
There's so much noise around it. You just can get lost. It can do this, it can do that, and it's like, I think it's, if someone could simplify, which is your training element, right? If you simplify it for people to say practically what this does, and you put it in its own little section so people can get their head around it. At the moment, there's so much noise, whether it's training, whether it's searching, whether it gets to a stage where you go, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And then it's different costings and different pricing. And like you said, no one wants to keep going on different platforms. They just want a simple life. And your answer to ChatGPT, to me, the simplicity of it was great, the simplicity, but to me, it's the answers I was getting I couldn't get anywhere else. It's like, I'll go to Google, I can't get those answers. Where else can I get those answers? To me, it was like mind-boggling. It's like, wow. So that gave it an advantage. Everyone's caught up with it now, right? And they can do that. But it's got such a big market from the start. It's going to decline, obviously, as others come into it, but it's still a major player. So it's first mover advantage, ease, cost, and they had billions behind them. Yeah.
Well, I think you get used to working a certain way, don't you? So I'm a Samsung user, which my kids love to take the piss out of me for. Yeah. Like my kids take the piss out of me constantly. I'm a Samsung user. And there's no logic other than I always was. I've had Samsung. So for me, the adoption of now going to get an iPhone and learning the iPhone. I use my wife's iPhone sometimes. I'm like, where's that? And why can't I find that? I would learn it. I'm sure I would. Yeah. I can't be asked. I can't be bothered. And in my mind, I'm going, well, I've got to go from what? Google Drive to what? iCloud? How am I? And there's probably a really simple way. I can't be bothered to do that. So I'm going to go and stick with Samsung. ChatGPT is the same. Claude, Grok, DeepSeek, Gemini, probably all do the same things that OpenAI does, but I'm used to OpenAI. I've got it. I've got the app on my phone. It knows me. It's trained now to understand me. It knows my brand. So I'm used to it. They might be a million times better, but I'm used to it.
So what you're going to find is that all of those. So first things, LLMs are today's language.
Yeah.
18 months time, if we're sitting here again, we will not be talking about LLMs. AGIs or whatever is going to be next, right? There's something. LLMs is just it's the vehicle to get us to where we're going to next. Very simply.
Yeah.
All these things we see today, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is all of those tools, all that LLMs we see today, ChatGPT, Claude, Anthropic, Perplexity, they already have different things they're good at because of the algorithms, because of the way they're trained, because of the way they're built. So what ChatGPT will do on this piece of work is great. It's good for general work. You want to go and do a deep piece of research, probably Perplexity Pro is better than that. So they're already coming up with different ways of doing it. Taking it back to this level, something you said, right, about industries. I think you mentioned actually different industries, different adoption. Okay. We started the lens of recruitment, right? How's it going to affect recruitment? And still, I'm sure we'll finish off with the lens of recruitment because that's why we're here, right? But we've got a challenge where different industries have different regulations on how they are allowed to adopt AI. So if you think about financial services, if you think about the nuclear industry, just very simply, right, there are rules around what AI can be used in their systems and how they tend to work. So I think for us to go, the whole world is going to change and everyone's going to be on this new thing. I don't think it's going to happen at the same big bang. It'll be drip fed at different points when different industries are ready for going, right, we are now happy with, okay, how this is going to interact with equities or derivatives or insurance premiums or whatever. That's when people are allowed. So you can already start seeing companies are closing out. You can't use AI in your job, or you can't use AI to do this piece of the job, right? So I think we've got to bear that in mind as well. It's not just because we're using it, and I would say this group here is, we're not novices and we're not experts. We're somewhere in the middle, right? We're on the journey. Yeah.
But it's interesting the lens that people look at it through. I sat down with a RevOps guy. What he was doing was he was trying to work out what parts of the recruiter's role he could automate, which sounds like a logical approach to take, which I think the majority of the industry is taking. But I can't help but think that the lens that people should be looking at is that how do we use AI to connect candidates to customers more efficiently? Because that's effectively the role of the recruiter. So when I look at the way the industry is pointing at that's great. Don't get me wrong. And operational efficiency is apps and scalability and deploying AI is one way in which we should be looking at it. If I come back to that approach that you were just talking about, it's the adoption of services, it's the simplicity of this. Are the winners of this recruitment marketplace not going to be the people which solved the simplest way of just using AI to connect customers and candidates?
I think it is, but I also think there's a lot of intricacies between those two that are still currently being managed or manipulated or controlled by a human. What I would say though, and this is where I'm not disagreeing or agreeing, I'm unsure. That bit, I would argue that anybody you could automate. I would take my tech over applications coming in over a human any day of the week, and I would challenge anybody on it. I'd compare it. We've done it. That my tech would beat them on speed, accuracy, intelligence, depth. We're trademarking, and one of the points you mentioned was on soft skills. So we're trademarking a terminology called HTI, so Hidden Talent Index. Actually, Hidden Talent Index score is what we're trademarking. The Hidden Talent Index is recognizing potential in people that aren't, an 80-90% match, but based on attributes, based on fast progression, fast trajectory, outcomes, degrees. There might be some hidden talent here that you probably should look at, and here's the development gaps, and here's where you could train them. So we're doing that stuff instantaneously. So that for me is better than any human. A human can't do that, and we could do that a million times over within nanoseconds.
The only limiting resource of that, in my opinion, is the talent pool.
If the client can get ahead of the talent pool, we're out of a job, right? As a recruiter.
Absolutely.
But So if they can do now, then the whole process. So all these automated platforms, the reason why a lot of them failed is that it was simple things like the interview process broke down. Someone, I couldn't speak. I had to cancel the interview, or they didn't turn up for this, or they missed a date. And it's the human that comes in and sort of fills that gap, right? I know it's a simple version of that.
Yes.
But if you're saying if a client can then get access to that candidate pool and they've got the technology and the AI to bring it all in, then recruitment's going to be impacted. We know that.
Yep.
I don't know how they're going to get access to that talent pool.
That's the key question, yeah.
And that's what it's going to come down to. That's why recruiters exist now.
So is the market going to be divided into candidate market, which is inaccessible, and the accessible market will be cleaned up?
Which is where he's at,
Yeah, which is where the technology
agreed.
is.
And that's how it's going.
Which today, so just to make sure we don't go, oh, AI's changed it, which today is very simply specialist, highly skilled market, which we currently have, same logic, pre-AI, and it's the high volume, high temp market, which is the same logic today that anyone can do. You have people wherever they are in the world to actually go, right, nurses, cleaners, drivers, whatever. So it's the same logic. All we're doing is reframing it with an AI role. This is going to be the change that will be coming. Let me take that up to a level, right? So I did something last year. It's called the inverting the hiring pyramid. If you could get to the stage where the TA team could be most effective at the part that the TA teams need to operate on, which is either live vacancies, keeping stuff going through, getting new hires coming in.
You get caught up in too much, don't
But
they?
you build a talent pool, you build your right recruitment partners to help manage and build the talent pools with you.
If we divide the market on that hypothesis, then it is the value of the data that we've spoken about, which becomes of high value.
That's the only world we've worked in, right? I'm involved in a business that does in the hospitality industry, right? It's just volume. Can you do the shift at that time? Yes or no? Have you got any ratings? In you go. You don't even have to interview. They just turn up. So that's always, you've seen the change in that. But the market I've always known is the power that recruiters have is getting candidates that are not easy accessible. And if that still applies, if technology can change that, then we're all in trouble. Yeah, because if it's that easy to find them, then and the in-house can do it, and the bot's going to be more intelligent than maybe the recruiter, because we think you've got to be a specialist. Well, if a bot learns about, all right, I understand the SAP market, I understand the .NET market, I understand the Salesforce market. If that's then got that expertise, then recruitment's going to have its challenges. It will. There'll be less of us.
My thoughts. This is since our last conversation. It has gone a lot, because I've seen the tech that we've developed and what we're now able to do and what we can assess and the level of depth, etc. And some of the tools that are coming out. My worry is it's heading that way. And it's not to say we're there yet. It's not to say that it's going to happen anytime soon. But you could say, right, we're going to put job adverts out. And already there's Logic Melon, there's Idaboo, there's all those things. You can distribute freely anyway. So that can go out. Applications are coming in. Talent Match can solve that problem really accurately, really instantly. We can reduce attrition. We can do all those kind of things. So that problem's dealt with. We can automate a bot to call people at another layer just to do some additional clarification. Great, it can be automated. We can schedule interviews to go in, and the applicant can just book it into the calendar. So humans not touched it yet. They can do that part. An interview can be assessed online, and you might have a bot doing the interviewing. There can be transcripts. They can analyze video. They can psycho-assess. They can do all that stuff from video. Get to the next stage. So you can go through lots and lots of stages where a recruiter hasn't touched it. You could then argue and go, okay, you don't need to do that stuff. Go and do outreach, and there's loads of outreach tools that are now coming in. They can go and do outreach. There's Apollo, there's Zoom Info. You can plug all of that into all your.
But
so you can do that bit.
Yeah.
So you do start to go, well, where?
But then how much does that all cost? It's going to cost, right? So the cost of deliveries, is it going to be any different? It might be less people. It's still going to cost you the same amount of money to deliver someone.
We all agree that there's big parts of the market which will be automated. Then we're talking about this more constrained part of the market, right? And so I'm guessing that this part a lot of it's going to go internal, right? Then we've got this talent-constrained, candidate-driven market. And what we're saying is that the challenges in that market are more difficult. What we're also saying is the value of the data becomes higher. We're also saying, though, in that market that contact rates, in particular, Tom, you've highlighted this, I think we all mentioned it, which is that business development contact rates are becoming more difficult. And so that's where the art potentially comes in. And if I think about that from a macro perspective, I look at it and go, I think that those platforms, LinkedIn and other platforms, will be doing what they can to protect themselves from bots, medium term. They either embrace them and go, look, everyone's going to have a digital bot here and they can have one and it can represent them. But I think that's unlikely.
Yeah.
They're likely to get tighter to protect people's privacy and.
Well, LinkedIn are doing this anyway, aren't they? LinkedIn are restricting the API access. We've had a nightmare trying to get Talent Match integrated with LinkedIn because they just don't want people coming into their network. They're also blocking companies from scraping their data. So there's been quite a few high profile. I think Apollo initially, but I think they've managed to get around it now. But there's someone recently have been blocked. So they're getting so much
becoming
more tighter.
Much more closed community, isn't it? So what that says is it can become more difficult for bots. So could we then assume that our roles of humans in the world the way we know it today is leaning more into that kind of outreach?
Possibly, I don't know. So there's all these tools that are coming out, and I've seen them at various events now where people are focusing more on outreach than they are on what we're doing, which is the inbound matching. They're kind of going, no, we'll help you do that. I don't know how effective they are. I haven't really looked at them. You know, what the response rates are, the outreach. You know, LinkedIn is now working on an AI capability to help with things like outreach. People are kind of saying it's a load of shit. It's not going to work. It's not as good. I don't know. So I don't know what the data's like on the outreach stuff that's out there. And also you kind of then go, outreach. So historical data in a recruitment company is great. The modern data in a recruitment company is centered around LinkedIn, isn't it? So if LinkedIn is difficult to get access to, are there other routes? You know, are there other routes to that data? You know, it is people like Apollo and Zoom Info, are they just pulling stuff from LinkedIn anyway and using Lusher and Surf and, you know?
So I think, okay, let's stick to LinkedIn for a minute, right? So there is a fundamental problem with LinkedIn today. Forget the usability, forget all the tech, and forget how they scam LinkedIn recruiter. Fundamentally, the number one problem with LinkedIn today is the data is not verified. On LinkedIn, there is nothing stopping me put on there as my current job title, the President of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Nothing stopping. You can put that on there, goes through.
I think we've got 20 employees that work for Talent Match that don't work for Talent Match. Yeah.
So I think the point about LinkedIn is great. It's a community. It's the biggest community and business community in the world. Okay, great. But the data is not verified on there. And years ago, we had an idea of the blockchain and stuff we were talking about. You know, it said to coming through about, right, well, lock in. Yeah, Ezra was the CEO of this company, locked. That's verified, done. Right? So even if LinkedIn tries to tighten the noose on people being able to, there is still a problem where you still need humans to verify, actually, that job you did there, did you really do it?
And skills as well. And I think there's
And this is where the OpenAI Academy mixed with LinkedIn, you know, and Microsoft aren't stupid, right? So they've got a foot in both camps.
Well, they invest heavily in OpenAI, don't they?
Exactly. So maybe they're using OpenAI to basically disrupt LinkedIn anyway.
Let's take another angle on this. So you're a recruitment business today. Okay, you're a founder. What steps are you taking today? What are the steps you would be taking as a founder of a 50-man recruitment business today?
We automate as much as possible.
Focus on the niche and be famous in that niche, and then look at the processes, how you can make that more efficient. Whether it's automation, whether it's human, you make that decision. Yep. And I would be very, very, very much client focused. Some of the automation has got to be automation for the right reason, because everyone's assumed it's just going to be cheaper. It might work out it's not cheaper if you work out, you know, the cost, your servers, your this, your that. I just think it's important that you don't overcomplicate the job sometimes. Yep. If you're a smaller business, what automation do you need? What don't you need? You know, when people talk about outsourcing to, let's outsource to South Africa, let's outsource to India, and now let's outsource to an AI agent. If it all works, great. I just think it's still too early. I still need proof of concept, and just got to make sure that whole cycle of how you work. I think the job. I always believe the American philosophy of breaking down your jobs into specialism is the way going forward. I don't think 360 works in the same way. So it's just setting up your business that's fit for purpose.
We were talking about it before you came to sales and service. That's kind of the job. If you think about regret, if I were for a 50-person business, it's probably three elements. One, operational efficiency, whatever that looks like, automation, people, roles, onshore, offshore, whatever that thing is. But try and optimize your business so your cost is being driven down. What do you want to be famous for? So selection of markets, and I think we're going back to the world where being a generalist will only lead to one thing. You're out of business. So what do you want to specialize in? And within your specializations, what products and services do you want to be famous for, and what can you offer? So I think that's going to be a differentiator moving forward.
There's a couple of people I was speaking to recently. Their whole business model now is they're working in the energy world. They're not selling traditional, I'll pay you 20% and I'll find you someone. They're selling a permanent solution saying, pay us X, we manage this for you, we'll do that for you, don't worry about internal recruiters, we'll automate all that for you, and we're specialists and we'll find you those candidates. And companies are going, yeah, I'll pay you that, because I don't want the hassle. I know what I'm paying. Yeah. I know what the cost is. I know what the cost of delivery is. It's 50 grand up front, 50 grand on this and 50 grand on that. But it's looking at permanent slightly different, as opposed to traditional, I'm going to charge you 20% or 30%.
There is definitely a value today, and I'd say that the value is increasing in the way the market's going. So I did an article last week or early this week, and it was talking about the talent war, and the war on talent, or the talent war, is getting to the best talent as quickly as possible, and that's because if you look at some of the reports coming out of America, there's so many more job searchers now than there are jobs, and I think that's now globally as well, and I think the numbers are getting quite frightening. So the level of job searchers to the level of jobs is so far off now in terms of ratio. Actually, the speed to the talent has become the biggest battle, because there's so fewer jobs now. Everybody's looking for the best talent. So that, for me, is where there's huge value, and that could be the niche element. It could be knowing your talent. Yeah. But the war on talent, for me, is the big one right now. If you can get to the talent as quickly as possible, you're going to win. Yeah. If you can't, you're going to lose. And,
I'd say the other side of that one for me would be the sales element would be, how do you keep a customer and get as much wallet spend out of that customer with all the products and service you can do. So we talk about sticky revenue. Yeah. And I came from a business that it was hit and run recruitment. We were masters at it. Yeah. And then we started evolving into going, right, how do we get to retainers, or how do we start doing SOWs? But as a recruitment business, if I was starting up today, you've got to be really, really clear on what markets do I want to go into? Actually, what is going to come down the pipe once this AI thing lands, because these jobs are gone. So doing software engineers today, I probably wouldn't set a recruitment company up doing that, because that's the one space that's getting displaced very quickly. And then what can I bring in from a products and services point of view to keep that relationship with that client, almost like the consultancy firms or professional services. So they're reliant on me for more than one thing. So one word that's come up a lot today is data. Even though this was about AI, it still comes back to data. You need clean data, actionable data to be able to move forward.
My thoughts on recruitment generally is why it's never evolved like some of the other businesses have evolved. So we mentioned earlier, so sales and services. So recruitment still has the 360 role, doesn't it? A lot of places.
Only in this country, really.
Yeah. And I've never understood that, because why are you trying to make somebody do everything rather than focus on, why haven't you got a hunter? Why haven't you got a business developer? Why haven't you got an account manager? Why haven't you got an SDR, BDR, customer success manager? Why haven't you got those things in recruitment?
Because your cost infrastructure goes up, and the 360 will pull a lead from the candidate, get a reference from the candidate, then get a recommendation. It can follow everything around. So if you follow that whole candidate and then you work in that market and constantly work in that market, you become an expert.
But it's inefficient, isn't it?
Depends.
Because if you've got 10 vacancies coming in and you're still doing all the leads, all of that stuff. It's inefficient in that respect.
But you don't get 10 vacancies typically in some of those specialist markets, right? So you're doing 5 or 6.
Or if you're pulling leads. If you're pulling
that's
leads,
never a problem. Right? You then get resources. You get resources to work for you. My point is, a 360. The way it works is because you can follow the whole cycle for what's going on. You understand what's going on in the market. Your knowledge base is going to be better than anyone else. You'll see what movers are. You know what candidates are good, what clients are good. So there's a benefit to it, I think. And I still
do. You think it's because it's a people business? Because if you put that in the context of a software business, you'd go, yeah, I've got a BDR, I've got an SDR, I've got they're following up the leads. They're going to go chase the big whales. Do you think it's because it's a people business? That's why it's modelled the way it is. And the reason I'm saying this is there's a business that I know quite well called RB2B. And they're about a 5 million ARR SaaS business. And he's done a test recently for 6 weeks, I think, over summer. He's gone, there's 5 employees. They've gone from 5 employees to 5 million ARR, which is fucking good anyway. Low cost base. He's gone, all the 5 employees are going to go off on holiday. And we're going to put AI bots in to run our business. And he produced his results the other day, and the results were brilliant. Churn didn't drop, retention was great. Leads coming in were being dealt with. Every service management was being done. Everything was brilliant, and the bots were doing it all. And I look at that and go, recruitment is still very, very archaic in a sense where we've still got, in a lot of places, one person doing everything. And I still look at recruitment. When I was in Evans Denham, Henson Scott, didn't have much of a marketing team. I was the marketeer for myself. It was me. It was my desk. It was my world. I was promoting myself on LinkedIn. I was doing everything. Why haven't we adopted that mentality? Why haven't we gone to a SDR, BDR, customer success? Why haven't we gone to an AI bots doing everything? Is it because it's a people business and not a licensed business? Is it because it is? I don't know.
I think a lot of it is down.
And if it is that, maybe that's the answer as to why there will still be a need for recruiters, because it's a people business, maybe. Because in software sales, like RB2B, they're kind of proven they don't need people.
Remember, when you're dealing with a person, right, there's so many factors that can change. When you're selling a glass, it's a glass, that's what it is. When you sell, there's not 2 same people the same. They don't have the same views, different opinions. So reading that and assessing that and finding that is more difficult than saying, I'm going to sell some glass. So I think because you are spending all your time speaking to candidates and clients, you're going to get better knowledge, better insight. You get emotionally, you get understand what there is. So I think being a people-based business, I think it does change it. So I've worked with business where you deal with people, and I've worked selling a CRM platform. Completely different skills. Yeah. I understand the SDR model compared to a 360, but when it's building a patch, building a market, starting something, references, checking that, making follow up, that whole cycle I learn more in 6 months being a specialist in that market than someone who's doing a client bit and a bit of a candidate bit, because I just know all aspects of the job. Isn't it? Yeah. Now the problem with that, and the problem we had in S3, is because they build up all that knowledge base, I can go and set up on my own. Yeah. So, but the American model, not on permanent, more so on contract, split desk. Yeah. Divide and conquer. You leave, you're dependent on each other. Yeah. So I think as recruitment companies, the idea of being over dependent on anyone has been a problem. I don't think that's going to change, because the people are going to need the businesses more if they adopt AI, automation. They're going to say, I need you because you're providing me with this, you're providing me with that. Why am I going to leave? So I think that will change things, but you'll have less people doing it. Yeah. That's how I see it moving. How do you become dependent on you as a recruiter? At the moment, when I used to do high level banking, and they started doing traders and placing people on $500,000 a year and getting 100 grand fees, it got to a stage where they've got a relationship with the client, they're pulling the candidates in, and the name doesn't, not on any PSLs because they work in niche markets. And I said, after a year, 2 years ago, thank you, I'll go and set up on my own. So we had to close that business because it wasn't scalable, right? Because we have to pay them differently. So we wanted PSL-based business where the consultants are dependent on us. Now, if we flip that round with the supporting of a consultant now, if we're going to give them all this support, who's paying for it? So you're going to need to do 2-3 deals a month now, not one, because I'm giving you this, giving you that. Then the power comes back to the recruiters. And that's the problem, right? All the power. The reason why there's 30,000 recruitment companies in the UK, the power's with the consultants, right? Top your consultant, you go and set up on your own. I think that's going to flip now, because the reason why there are less recruitment companies when it's paper-based, because going to market will cost you more, right? You have to spend 10 grand on an advert. Then we saw the internet, that changed things. I think where we're moving now, all these tools, these lovely tools that everyone wants, it's going to come at a price. So if you're setting up on your own, you're going to have to make sure you're going to make sure your searching's in the right way. You've got how to find the right candidates. Have you got interactions with LinkedIn? And or API to this, API to that? It all costs money, right? So, and then all of a sudden you think, to set up on my own, I've got this luxury of having this service. I'm paid pretty well. I think that's going to have a different.
And if you don't have those tools, you're going to be slower.
Exactly.
It's going to come down to price or value.
Yeah.
And so I guess every founder of a recruitment company today has the ability to leverage AI just like any other AI entrepreneur does. And so...
Would you found a recruitment company today? Have you done it? Have you founded it because of the capability you've now got? Or have you done it because of what you knew historically?
No, I've done it to solve a particular problem in the social care space.
Yeah, but have you done it with the knowledge of now what's available to you, or have you done it just because of historical? I know recruitment.
No, I think our vision is to become AI native. With it. So we have a vision to become purely AI native, but it's solving a problem.
So my question would be: would you have done it with it not being AI native? And
I'd still try to have solved the same problem.
Yeah.
But my question comes back to that price point. So when you talk about price, I think it's price or value, and for me, it's whether those founders and leaders of recruitment companies, how they exploit AI to solve new problems. And so I can't help but think, you mentioned it earlier about the data. When we were answering that, Kalpesh, you talked about the data again. I think you mentioned industry trends. And now, what was the barrier to delivering value historically from that database? The barrier to doing it was the difficulty of it.
Of course.
Right? The complexity. How easily can AI extrapolate value from your database today?
But it's the small things, right? That it can give you a generalist view on something, but it's never going to know, well, simple things like how many offers and what were the offers? Was it 10% below, 5% below? How are they going to get access to some of that data unless companies are going to feed them with that? So when you look at some of the salary surveys, for example, from the big job boards or things like that, they don't generally know what the person went for. They saw how much the jobs are advertised for, but they don't see what they accepted.
I'm coming back to just bringing that back. My point was that these recruitment founders, if you're a recruitment founder today, what you're saying, it might well come down to price and efficiency and those other things. And what I was suggesting was that they also have the opportunity to provide more value, which you also mentioned earlier, which was around providing market insight trends,
which is so much easier now than before.
There's loads of value. Historically, that was tough to do. We all tried to do it, but trying to get into that data and access it. But intelligence you can use to do that surface that very easily. Would those founders and leaders of recruitment companies not be right to try and explore how they use AI to solve new problems for their customers? So I can only think about things like the analysis of their existing workforce,
which is
efficiency, effectiveness.
Which agencies do that, right? I've got friends that, especially in the search world, right? They go into the companies, they look at the trend, churn, diversity, everything, right?
Absolutely.
People are going to they're going to do it because they're going to have the tools to be able to provide it, right? So all this value-added service will come into it. This is why, again, rather than try and do everything, I think it's easy. If you just work a particular market, then your data becomes really tight. It's like, because as you say, you go to ChatGPT, it's a generalist. But if you say my data is made up of all that and my special source that I know because I'm an industry specialist, because I speak to 1,000 candidates in this market every single day, right? I speak to clients in this market every single day. So I've got a feel and I've got the data. You put that on top, data plus insight of what you're seeing, that's powerful, right? But you can't do that for everything. That's why I think being focused makes it a lot easier. Gives you the value add.
Yeah.
Unless you can be a generalist if you do a postcode or you do a region. So you can go the other way around. Your thing you're talking about, just coming outside of recruitment a bit, if I just look at management consultancies, right, then they're going, we talk about recruitment going through its own challenges at the moment. That is an industry that's been disrupted at a rate of knots, right? You look at McKinsey, Bain, by BCG, they're all posting redundancies and revenue down per partner, etc. So you can now get to a stage, and I'm working with a company where actually they're building something for recruiters next. In fact, they started for recruiters and realised the recruiters won't pay for it, so they've gone into management consultancy the other way around. They've now built a tool using AI and automation and data feeds and data links, etc., because they can now buy the data links cheaper. They can now do in half a day a research paper that's about 70 to 80% as good as what it used to take a researcher a week. Yeah. So now if you're a researcher working for McKinsey, you are in trouble based on today. You're not going to need as many of them. But actually, what it now means is when you're a research analyst, here's the serve up of something that's 70% ready. You've now got more hours of the week to dive into it, to pull out things that are more valuable, more relevant, more to actually push it through. So there is a change coming. And look, recruiters, whether it's salary surveys or insight papers or how many candidates are applying for jobs, whatever it might be, we have the tools now using AI that can do this quicker to a pretty decent standard, but you're still going to need a human in the loop to make sure what you send out is actually accurate, relevant and timely to what that customer needs.
To me, it's the value add that you bring in that's not in that data. So you bring it in, you need it to give it this, it's like your foundations. But I think that the recruiter brings in, here's the roof to make sure everything's safe. And it's that insight, I think, is what makes the difference. And to do that, I keep saying this, and I sound like that's very repetitive here, but if you try and do it in too many areas, in too many different ways, I don't think you can, right? You just become another generalist. This is where you've got to have your secret sauce, to me, is what makes you different. And it's whether it's location, whether it's industry, whether it's skills, there's got to be something that makes you stand out.
There's definitely a realization that's happening in what I'm seeing, which is the fear that AI would take your job. I think people are now realizing that probably isn't the case in all cases. It's people that know how to use AI, people that adopt AI will probably take your job.
Yeah.
If you don't adopt AI, if you don't use AI, people that are using it will probably take your job. So I
people enabled, human enabled,
yeah, completely
and the
agree.
jobs that AI are taking, well, they probably should have taken them 5 years ago anyway. In some other way.
Yeah. The bit, and it comes back to the original point of this conversation, and I still don't know what the answer is. The bit that still is unclear is you've got recruiters using AI, and they're probably removing certain parts of it, and they become more efficient. There's an operational cost improvement. There's a speed improvement. It's still at what bit then are they going to add that value? And that's still the bit that I'm still not 100% sure on. And I was really sure on this before. I'm now not that sure on where does the value come in, because the bit you're talking about, I completely agree with. But could we not get that data? Could we not get that niche? Could we not get all of that and bring that into it? I don't know. And we might not yet, but we might go in that direction. And it, I hope it isn't the case, because I still would like to believe that there is human interaction, there is empathy, there is understanding, there is relationships, all those things. And I hope we don't go that way. But it's looking like we could go that way with all the stuff that's coming in. And that, it might become a time when recruitment becomes completely obsolete in that regard.
As we know it today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I take you back, again, let me take you on, I know we go back to, we're not going to the days of those street lamps, right? I'm only talking about late 1990s. And I think about an S3, S3 was being a pioneer on many things, created companies generating billions in IT recruitment, etc. over the years. So S3 used to have a team called the bridging team. And that team's job was that every CV that came in was to add it to the system. And I think there must have been 30 odd people at one point, right? Working in expensive real estate in central London. Okay. As soon as the parsing products got good enough, that team went. But out of those 30 people, some got made redundant, maybe some decided they're out of it. They're going to become gardeners in Devon, whatever. But most of those people got redeployed into jobs where their knowledge and their skills became more valuable. And that's the bit for me going, right, I don't know what the answer is yet, Ezra, about what that new thing is. But there's a whole bunch of people that are about to be disrupted. They're going to be valuable somewhere else. We're just not sure where.
Well, and that was like Salesforce last week, wasn't it? Salesforce cut, was it 4,000 people?
4,000 people.
LinkedIn went mental for it, and it was just this kind of story that everybody was jumping on.
But it's all 4,000 developers.
It was, but when you looked at the numbers,
4,000 customer support.
Yeah,
customer support, it was.
Yeah.
But when you looked at the numbers, actually, of the people that were at risk before the 4,000 went, and they looked at the redeployment of additional people, there was shitloads of people. So 4,000, yeah, it was a lot, but they were looking at a much bigger piece, and they then went into that piece and went, well, can we use them different places? Can we move them? Can we upskill them? Can we do that? You know, so it was a much bigger exercise to then realise, actually, yeah, we probably don't need that bit. But it was a much bigger bit, like you say. It was redeployment, upskilling. It was moving them around different. It wasn't just a straight, right, fuck off, we don't need them.
I sat down with a guy called Novo Conster, who is he is the guy that sold Indeed Flex.
Yeah.
So to Indeed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Indeed Flex. It was
Flex. Yeah.
And Sift.
Yeah.
He sold Sift to Indeed Flex. That's right. Became into it. He now sits on the SLT of Indeed.
Yeah.
Big business, man. 12 billion turnover. Huge business, Japanese owned.
Yeah.
And they have deployed AI, and it has led to them reducing their team size. But what I found really fascinating, and I use this example a lot, is that he started to deploy a lot of his team to solving a different problem. And one of the problems he did, the Indeed Flex model is temporary staff. And the problem that he'd always identified was that temporary staff don't get treated as well as permanent staff. And so what they've done is they've deployed a whole load of people into improving the quality of the experience of being a temporary staff member.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about, like I said, really what's happened is this has freed up your time for you to address new challenges and problems which he had been aware of for years, but had never had the kind of capability or time to be able to address it.
Yeah.
And so when you extrapolate that, I think about the capitalism, the way it works, competition and innovation drives competition. So in that perspective, that's going to have a knock-on effect on all other temp providers over time, that they need to increase the quality of their service, right?
Yeah.
And so the question would be, hopefully we see this world where, you've just said it, that we start to deploy people into solving new
Different
problems.
roles, yeah.
And I can't help but think that, Novo has addressed the quality of service that the temp worker gets. That's a great, he's a smart guy, very, very smart guy. For me, that's a smart move, right? He's just he's just increasing the value that they provide. He retains his candidates and his temp workers, offers a better service to his customer, can talk about his retention rates being better than other players. The opportunity is to solve the problems that we know exist. But people are we take things for granted. But you didn't, as an example. You didn't just go, well, tech adoption, adoption is 12%. And we're market ready. What you went was, fucking hell, I'm not happy with. You might be the industry norm, but you went, well, this 12% is a load of bullshit. I need to solve that adoption issue. I'm not just going to keep selling and hope that I retain 12%. I'm going to address it, change service, and do that. And so how big is the opportunity for people to innovate, and should they do it? Based on what we've said today, how important is moving up or down the value chain, increasing the value that you offer to your customers?
As a recruitment consultant, as a recruitment company.
That's not a new thing, though, Ezra. That's if you want to survive and grow your business with 30,000 competitors, that's been the rule of the jungle all the way through. You've got to innovate, you've got to add more value, you've got to differentiate, you got to stand out. Otherwise, your business will go under.
But don't just chase the new shiny toy, though, right? That's the problem. It's picking, because there's so much.
Well, you've got a lot of experience of this, haven't you? Because you were, as leading chief executive S3, you spoke a lot about I'm responsible for the strategy. That one of your learnings, I remember from our previous conversation.
I did. I looked at, this tech's great. We could do this. We could do that. And then you lose your focus on the core things that you should be doing. We're still a recruitment business. So don't kid yourself that you can just move straight into being a consultant. You've not been trained to do a consultant. Don't kid yourself you can now build a tech business, because just be careful, and be aware of what's out there and what impact that can have on the business. So sometimes people feel the need to jump on everything and be ahead of it. I still think you don't have to. I don't think it's business critical. Some businesses, when they're slightly bigger business, the inefficiencies, I get that, right? That's the big driver. When I speak to advised businesses, is your operations, your processes, how do we improve all of that? And then the sales cycle. But still remember your markets, what your candidate scarcity, all the core sales skills, speak to people, meet people. I said, don't get too distracted by a lot of the noise and just focus on the core things that make you a successful recruitment business. And I think a lot of people get distracted and they're in a position where they take their eye off the ball. I think it's important. You have people to look at that, of course, but don't lose the focus of what makes you successful.
So if we take Novo's example, he is solving a problem that's clearly in his lane. That's not a novel issue.
If you think of recruitment industry as a feedback you get about candidate experience recruiters or clients, we're not a liked industry. It's like a state agency, right? We're a necessary evil. So if this enables us, like in that situation, to be better with our candidates and better with our clients, it's going to be a good thing, right?
The only caveat to that would be that whether those traditional skills that you mentioned are still required. That's the concerning bit, isn't it? Because you could double down on those traditional skills and go be fucking good at this, and you know, are they still required?
Who knows?
And that's
selling. I still think is a key part
do you know
of it.
What, though? I almost feel like we're in a position where you're either going to have recruitment agencies or you're going to have internal recruiters with all the tech now that's available. Because with all the tech that's now available, you kind of at a point where you're going, we kind of need one or the other. At the minute, because of the tech, the internal recruiters couldn't do it all, could they? That was the reason we had the agencies, because they weren't specialists. They didn't have the ability. But to go, okay, we've now got the ability to have all the resource, all the information, all the data, all the tech. Do you still need them?
I don't see that. I don't think they'll be able to do it still. I still think they can do elements of it.
But do they then go, we can do this bit,
but
and we use agencies for the bit on top?
That's exactly what they do now.
But that's the pyramid. So the other thing you got to remember, Tom, right, is the core job for recruitment is recruitment. When you talk to a bank, a nuclear facility, a telco, a SaaS, recruitment is not their core job or their core service. So that is a sunk cost they've always got to think about. So it's never going to be, do we do a new product, put $1 million behind that, or do we put $1 million behind our TA rates? Like, do you know what, we'll pay as you go and do what we need to do. Have enough people that can do the bits we need, then we'll just keep going out to bring people in as we need them.
Gives the flexibility as well, doesn't it?
So I think I agree with you on the TA story, and we've talked about this before, but there is also a reality that the TA market in the last 3 years has shrunk big time.
Oh, yeah.
There are more TA people on the market today
massively,
than there were in 2020, right? Realistically. So companies have also got to go through a reskilling exercise of actually, what is our TA function now? How does it fit in with our HR function?
Do you think that industry is more at risk than recruitment?
Both are at risk. Both are ready for disrupt, right? Because they've both got to change in how they operate and deliver value. Taking your point. If you think about a HR director of a company, they've got 7 core departments underneath them, from L&D to ops, etc. TA is just one element of it.
Yeah.
But for a recruiter, this is what they do every day. They've got to make it work or pull the shutters down. They're the choices.
I don't know what the answer is, and like
none of us have got really.
No,
right?
and
let's roll it back. What would you take as sensible assumptions from the things that we've spoken about today? What things? So if you were to feed some sensible assumptions into someone's hypothesis of how they're going to make a plan for the next few years today, what would you take away from it? I would kick it off very simply to say the technology in all the areas we've spoken about is going to get a lot better.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
So work on the basis that it's currently its worst case.
It is, yeah.
Today.
It is, yeah.
I think we can probably, and whether we do it or don't do it, but I think there's probably an exercise to go which parts of the recruitment process can AI do right now, and what can't it do right now, and what do we believe it won't be able to do? And we can probably do that. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm saying probably do that. We can probably go, okay, AI can write job descriptions. Probably it can do that, and it can do that probably quicker than people can. It can post a job. It can
create, send emails, do all that, right?
Yeah. So there's probably components of it, and I think that's probably what I would say I've taken from this conversation today. There's components of recruitment process that AI can do better than people can.
Yep.
And then the other part is, what are those components that it can't do? And that's probably where right now we're all going,
Yep.
At the minute, we don't think it can do these bits, whatever they are, Whether it can in the future is the unknown, and we're not sure. But today, I would say they're the bits that it can't do.
There is change coming.
Significant change.
Yep.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The change will disrupt potentially who your clients are.
Yep.
Because some industries are going to disappear. It's going to change the way you work. It's going to change the people you need in your business and the skills that they have. And then the final part for me, to bring it all together, is your business plan or your strategy should be based on where can you add most value, niches, sectors, perm, contract, RTO, etc. But you've got to really decide today, what do you want to be famous for? And every day you've got to continue innovating to improve your price versus quality. On value, price versus value. Every day you've got to think about, how can I add more value to either stay in the race, or how do I add more value to increase my price?
To be ahead of the race, yeah.
So the principle I take away from that is you can't stand still in today's market. So you have to take action as a leader. The two things I would suggest there, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you guys have agreed that you need to make operational improvements and efficiencies wherever you can. So that lens that what the RevOps guy was replacing, aspects of what a human does with AI is absolutely relevant. You're suggesting you can't stand still also around the value you're providing.
Yeah.
So we've given some very rudimentary examples, but finding problems like Novo has, finding new problems to solve. But the other principle I think, which is a really great one, is your one, Gary, which is make sure you're in your lane and don't lose sight of your core objectives by chasing shiny, bright objects. Did we all agree that we think that contact rates and engagement via traditional channels is going to continue to decline?
I think it will in some respects, but because your focus will be different. So instead of going on 8 meetings a month, for example, the focus will be, right, I've got more people available. It's got enough time now because a lot of the work's been taken away. They can go on 20 meetings a month now. Okay. So your activity levels will increase.
Yes.
But it's going to be harder to get through to people.
Yeah.
But you'll be hoping, because you're not getting distracted, you'll be more effective. So therefore, and I think traditional I think people are going to get to a stage, well, they are at this stage, right? Whereas I don't talk to people anymore. I'm working from home. I'm not interacting. Yeah. So I think that generation of, we should speak to, let's go and have a coffee. Let's have a chat. Let me come and meet you. I think that's still, I know a lot of people still work from home, but whether it's, I know it's Zoom call, but there has got to be value. And if there's no value in it, and they don't see the value in it, then recruitment is in trouble.
If we look at it in the example of this wouldn't be as good if we were on Teams or Zoom.
No doubt.
So I think in that context, I think you're absolutely right. And I think there is a need for that. There's a human need for that engagement and that interaction still.
So if we come back to that, so we think that some of the traditional channels will continue to decline, but the demand for human connection and engagement is going to become more valuable.
Need to do more of it together. Yeah.
So part of that is just as a real evidence. If you look at the number of events where people are now going to networking events or dinners, we're seeing, this year, we've seen a massive rise on it.
I spoke to one company. He's only a small company. He's got about 8-10 people. And he does, and I was blown away, like 4 or 5 events a week.
Amazing.
He does it, and it's not, I'm selling you. It's an event on certain subject matter, invites people in to talk about things. He's talking, and he says, I get all my business from doing that.
Value add.
And that's a fantastic. So what he's doing there is he is solving the connection challenge, isn't he? So your ability to,
But they're meeting physically.
and but he's addressing that, and he's doing that by adding value.
Yeah, exactly.
And moving into a different value chain.
I mean,
so solving a different problem.
on lesser scales, I mean, I've seen the Zoom webinars, the gated Zoom webinars. Those have increased in volume, and also business that comes out of those, because people want a bit more interaction. They want a bit more.
Well, it's better than a phone call, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Yeah.
And so those kind of things have gone up, and little things as well. We've seen just in looking at some of this kind of marketing analysis, people are ignoring mobile phone numbers they don't know quite regularly. If you've got a phone number from a kind of more smaller domestic area code, so where I live it's 01442 whatever, you tend to answer it.
I wonder who that was calling me.
You tend to answer it.
Ignoring them.
If it's an 0208
If it's
number,
London number,
you tend to ignore it.
Fucking
If it's an 01442,
Blocks.
Fuck off, Tom.
you tend to answer it. So that,
I didn't have thought about that.
but it's those and other little things like, and again, this is stuff that we've seen. If you send an email, so you remove all your signature, you have no links. You send an email. At the bottom of the email, you put "sent from my iPhone." You write "sent from my iPhone." People think you've actually gone and sent them an email, from and it's getting more engagement, more open.
Dark arts, right? It's all those little things.
Innovating in the process is going to be critical.
That's good.
To create a more human experience, So it's those things I think people are looking for that.
So I think the final part is when we talked a lot about efficiencies, we talked about markets, we talked about staying in your lane. The one thing that, and Gary's sitting in the room, so he's going to go, finally, someone's talked about it, but you've got to train your people to be ready for the new world, right? You don't have all the tools to fight in the desert if you're fighting in the Arctic Circle. The battle's changing.
Yeah.
Are your people? I mean, I do something. I joke about being like a connector, right? That's my superpower. So my question to most people when it goes, right, when you go to an event, I still see, three mates all standing in the corner talking to each other. I was like, what are you doing? Get out there. So there's a whole reskilling needed, and even leaders, right? These recruitment owners have lost the skill to go and work a room, to go network, to go and have a conversation, to elevate a pitch, right? So I think there's a whole bunch of, as much as efficiencies and markets and price versus value, pay some money to go and skill your people up with the skills that they need.
I think also on the point you made, I think if you could, as a recruitment business, if I was starting a company today, if I could find a market that was really niche,
which is
really high skill,
that's what you'd like.
That didn't live on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to come write your money, aren't you? Going to write your checks, aren't you? So what is that market that it doesn't sit on LinkedIn? It's fucking niche. It's not blue collar. It's not high volume. It's quite that for me is where
it can be blue collar, by the way. Niche blue collar.
Well, the reason I say that is lots of blue collar aren't on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're not on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're on Facebook still. So it's people that aren't on any of the job boards. Aren't on the social. Where do those people? If you can find what that industry is, and you can find a way of getting those people, you've got huge value.
So we're back to data there again, aren't we? So it's about being able to create a data set that has value, that is inaccessible to the end users, to the internal recruiters.
Yeah.
So really thinking about how can you create a valuable data set. And the number one thing, I think we all come from, apart from Henderson Scott, you've thrown them under the bus today, Tom, but in Red, and in all the other businesses we've built, we've been laser focused on really powerful databases, our ability to get to the right people.
Do you know why though? And
this
is where Henderson Scott could have been a million times bigger, because you were probably a lot more focused on contract than you were on perm. We were 80% perm, 20% contract.
Yeah.
And that was why our CRM didn't really matter. Yeah. So I know the guys from Modus now at LinksApp. Their database is their absolute Bible. You literally, it's got to be accurate. It's got to be updated. Perm, that was never ever the case. So I don't know whether that is in your business or not, but contract, absolutely. Henderson Scott wasn't heavily contract.
Yeah.
And that was what, if we were contract, we were fucked. And when we were contract, we were fucked because our database wasn't that good. But on perm, it didn't really matter. LinkedIn came along, and
I'd suggest that on perm it's just as important, really.
it should be,
because you have
it
to
should
take
be.
a long-term.
It should be
long-term view.
But LinkedIn made it so much easier.
But we conclude on that: the value of your database and ensuring that it's in a market which is less accessible, working really hard to find off-market, inaccessible candidates, and is a real superpower.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good, guys. Great to see you. Thanks for taking the time. It's been deep.
Deep.
It has.
Messing with my